Welcome to Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host producer. My name is James Reisman. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the tin cannon string, we have our analyst and co-host. You know him from numerous blogs and podcasts around the internet, most notably from the Wide Left Substack. He is Mr. Useful Human, Arif Hassan. Arif, instead of talking about the game that's currently going on between the Ravens and the Dolphins, and the overthrow on fourth down, the Tua made, the sack on a Hail Mary that Tua took, I want to talk a bit about summer brain.
Yeah, we had a lot. So I received an email a couple days ago. See if I can find it from Sumer Sports about the new feature that Sumer Brain has, which is it's very exciting.
So Sumer Brain is an AI thing. Before we start, so Sumer Brain is an AI thing, much in the same vein as ChatGPT and all that.
Yeah. So it's an LLM, and so Sumer Sports is an analytics company. They've connected an LLM. If you want a lot more detail, I wrote a story over at WideLeft.Football about why I don't like Sumer Brain, which is one of these like ChatGPT type artificial intelligences, quote unquote artificial intelligences, for the purpose of answering football questions. So I received an email because I've been part of the closed beta and the open beta testing Sumer Brain. The email says the next phase of Sumer Brain open beta is here. You can now connect your Sleeper or Yahoo League and get personalized answers built around your roster. It is powered by consensus fantasy projections and supported by the same advanced football data you already see in Sumer Brain. Usage, red zone targets, and coverage performance are now things you can ask in relation to your fantasy team. This phase focuses on league sync for Sleeper and Yahoo, start, sit, and lineup advice, waiver recommendations, and trade analysis. Now, mind you, James, they did also add, it is still in beta, so not everything's perfect.
Absolutely is. So Arif messages me late last night and goes, hey, can we put the Hell League through this thing? And evil laughter immediately broke out. Absolutely, we can. And we just spent the last 15 minutes breaking this thing.
It's been so fun, man. It's been so fun.
For those who are unfamiliar with Hell League rules, kickers are everything, and kickers can range in points from negative 150 to plus 250.
Yeah, so I mean, it modeled after kind of the historic problems that the Vikings have had that have been specifically kicker related, and how many of their wins and losses, especially their losses, have hinged on just surprisingly bad kicker performances. We, of course, started a fantasy league that focused entirely on these kickers. And so, we would post screenshots, I think fairly often, a little bit less so now, but fairly often, of like, oh my God, we're so close. I'm only 30 points behind my opponent, and Brendan Aubrey is yet to play. It's Monday Night Football. He's the only one. I think I'm going to win. And people are like, what do you mean 30 points behind with a kicker left to play? And then after Brendan Aubrey like sunk a 50-yarder, I post a screenshot. Well, I'm winning now. What do you have to say about that?
So we've been doing the Hell League for years, and we have the big sign up in August and everything. And I have 13 leagues running because I just let everybody in now. And it's wonderful, and I hate it because I have 13 leagues that I have to be in charge of and run and everything. But so the rules of this are absurd. And we synced up the Hell League with Sumer Brain and proceeded to ask a very simple question. Who's more valuable, Lamar Jackson or Brandon Aubrey? And
like, again, Brandon Aubrey is like clearly the most important player in this league. Like, that's how this works. So I just wanted to like put that out there. All right. Anyway.
So instead of getting an answer that would have involved checking the scoring, it just went, no, Brandon Aubrey's only expected to score 2 points this week. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson should score at least 24. I'm like, no, check it again. I literally said, let's try this again. Using the scoring system of this league, which players should score more points this week?
So we started out pretty general, right? We were just hey, in our league, who's the most important player? What's the most important position, right? So I asked it what's the most important position. It said wide receiver. And I was like, that's not right. And it compared it to all the other positions and explained why the other positions aren't as important. And for kicker, it said low variance in scoring. And buddy, when I tell
Nope.
You miss an extra point and you could be losing the league. That's not how that works. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should try another tack. I want to kind of lead it to water, right? I can't make it drink, but I want to lead it to water. And so I'm like, okay, well, how about this? How about you tell me who the most important player in our fantasy league is? And they said Christian McCaffrey in my league. And I was like, okay. And by the way, that one took 10 minutes to answer. I was shocked. And then I asked, okay, maybe I can, help you along a little bit more. Which player in my roster has scored the most points this year based on our specific league rules? So right now I'm letting it know that this is not a normal league and that you should check the league rules. And then it answered back Christian McCaffrey, which, buddy. So
nope.
So then I was like, okay, how about this? I have Chase McLaughlin on my roster. He is the third most points of any kicker in the league this year. I said, how many points has Chase McLaughlin scored? Now, I know the answer to this. It's 424.1. Again, that's just how this league works. It's got he's so important that he is on bye and I've kept him on my roster, right? That's it's a kicker, right? He said he scored 67 points. Field goal, 17 out of 21. That's 51 points. Extra points, 16 out of 17. That's 16 points. And then they're like, well, he's been really good from long range too. And it's well, I know that, but I don't think you understand what that means. And I said, hey, can you triple check this against the specific and very niche league rules we're using? I'm letting it know. I'm letting it know that it is. You have to double check. And then they said, you're absolutely right to ask me to triple check. I need to correct my previous response based on your league-specific scoring rules. Oh my God, great. We're getting somewhere. Chase McLaughlin's actual 2025 season points, total points through 8 weeks, 16 points. So he went from 67 to 16. And looking at it, and it said, my previous response, you correctly stated McLaughlin had scored 67 points with detailed field goal breakdowns. Not detailed enough. Looking at the actual data from your league scoring system, he has only scored 16 total points through 8 weeks. And there's one more thing I want to get into, but there's more that you have on your end that I think is funny too.
Yeah. So I continued to ask it difference. I gave it as much information as I can. I literally asked it, what are the rules? What are the scoring rules for kickers in our league? And it gave me a bunch of stuff that is not correct again. And later it said, could you clarify what I'm missing? Perhaps there's additional context about the specific week 1 performance that I'm not accounting for correctly. I'm still not seeing how Aubrey, quote, more than doubled, end quote, Jackson's total.
Yeah, because you said, hey, you're wrong about this.
Be better.
Aubrey more than double Jackson's total. And it's I don't know how. And then it gave you the even worse kicker rules, because it gave me the same kicker rules for you, which is where it eliminated all field goals, and it said that you get 0 points for field goals made and 1 point for extra point made. And so it actually on the second try, because it projected 9.4 points, I think, for week 9, and then on the second try it said he only had 2 points week 1. So I asked it, hey, can you just detail all the scoring rules for kickers in this specific league? I apologize, but I'm unable to provide the detailed kicker scoring rules for your league. While I can see kicker performance data from your league, the specific scoring structure, points per field goal distance, extra point values, etc., isn't clearly defined in the available information. Hey, man, why would I sync my league to this AI if it doesn't know the rules of my league?
It's beautiful. I love it. I love that it's entirely possible that Sumer Brain is just bad. But I like to think that the AI is broken by these rules.
By the rules, that they connected to the rule set, and it just broke its brain. It's like it's staring into infinity. It no longer, we've ruined Sumer Brain for any future user in any other session.
Sumer Brain is just staring into the void like a man who's had way too much to drink sitting at a Waffle House waiting for his order at the bar. He cannot handle life. He needs coffee. He needs syrup. He needs this world to end. And with that, let's get into this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys are all doing well. We have a game to preview. Arif did an interview earlier today discussing the Lions matchup happening on Sunday. So we'll go to that here in just a few. And we have a mailbag as well. But before we start, again, thank you guys so much for listening to Norse Code. If you enjoy the show and would like to help us out financially, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can head over to patreon.com/NorseCode for $3.50 a month or a little less for the year subscription. You get access to the Discord, bonus episodes, all of that. I'll be putting out another bonus episode here in a couple of days. So check that out. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode as well for a one-time donation, or you can go over to norsecode.threadless.com for any number of pieces of Norse Code merchandise, t-shirts, baby onesies, broken AI pieces will start to sell. So yeah, check that out over at norsecode.threadless.com. And let's go over to the interview that Arif conducted earlier today. This is with Jeremy Reisman, friend of the show. He's been on more than a few times, and he is from Pride of Detroit, and they previewed the Lions game, and we will be back for the mailbag.
All right, I'm here with Jeremy Reisman. I think I figured it out, actually. It is the S and not the Z, right? Jeremy Reisman.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, cool. Because I asked like 4 years in a row, and I finally remembered. That's how much I value our friendship.
I appreciate that. That's, you know what? That's why I'm still here. That's why I keep coming back.
Perfect. Yeah. Jeremy Reisman, if I'm not mistaken, is the inventor of the newsletter.
First one.
Yeah, the first one. And no, but you were part of like the lead on piloting like SB Nation newsletters. You have the Pride of Detroit newsletter that you run. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we a few years ago, 3 years ago, I think it was, SB Nation launched 2 premium newsletters, which I think we all know what the word premium means. It means we're getting you to actually pay us money. Yeah, it was us and Arrowhead Pride, and then when Pete Sweeney took a job with the Arrowheads or the Kansas City Star, it became just Pride of Detroit Direct is the only one standing right now.
Pride of Detroit Gold.
That's right.
All right, man. And I'm about to be on your podcast in a little bit, so it's going to be fun back and forth. The reason we're doing this, obviously, the Vikings are playing the Lions, I'm told. The Vikings.
They're going to try. They're going to try.
This is the attempt for sure. Vikings coming off of a mini bye, which obviously is devastating news for the Lions, except they're coming off of a bye.
The maxi bye.
Yeah, maxi bye. Right. Yeah. Buy gold. Right.
That's right.
Okay. Actually, that sounds like a command to like buy a precious metal. No, that's not what I want. A gold level buy. And they're injured-ish. I don't know. I feel like the story the Lions have had this whole offseason is like how beat up they're getting, and then you take a look at the roster and it's like, well, that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, the secondaries, we'll get there, but like it feels like they're way less hurt than all the news I got about the Lions throughout the offseason and during the season would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got hit early, but it wasn't the same as last year where it was like, oh, these guys are gone for the year. You'll never see these guys again. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, these guys hit the IR early. They'll be back midpoint season, late-ish part of the season, and they're fine.
Yeah, and like to be clear, there's like 18 players on IR. Like I'm not suggesting that they don't have a lot of, but like it's not the same as last year.
Yes.
So, I mean, Lions are hurt. That's nothing new. But the nature of their hurt is, I guess, a lot more accommodating this year. I think
it's fair.
Yeah. And so as a result, the Lions are 5-2 in the division, just behind Fraudsters 5-1-1, Green Bay Packers, and ahead of probably not Fraudsters, but like no way should they be a winning team, the Chicago Bears. And then the Vikings were 3-4. We don't got to talk about that. So let's talk about
not fraud at all. I mean, that seems like a legit 3-4.
It would be tough to call them fraud. No, let's talk about the offense. We always start with the offense.
Sure.
And we usually talk about like my latent skepticism for Jared Goff, which like that, I'm done with that now.
No.
Yeah.
So you jumped off the Amon-Ra thing. Now you're jumping off the Jared Goff.
we never said I jumped off the Amon-Ra thing. I just made him the third team honorable mention all pro, whatever I called him.
You put the extra chip on his shoulder. That was the last straw, and now he's a top 5 receiver because of you.
Top 5.
Oh no, we're not getting into this already. Nope.
I mean, I think by yardage he's top 5, right? Like that's
probably close. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, man. You can't be doing this. All right. No, we're talking about Jared Goff. Goff. How do we feel about the way that the offense has changed, the new offensive coordinator, the amount of input that Jared Goff has, which I understand to be pretty significant, both in terms of how the offense is designed and then like at the line of scrimmage when we typically talk about quarterback input?
Yeah, no, I think in general, it doesn't look all that different. I would say like, the efficiency has gone a little up and down and maybe a little bit lately, a little bit down. But in terms of just how things have changed, it doesn't look a ton different from Jared Goff's point of view. I think there tends to be a little bit of a negative connotation when a guy isn't making a ton of big plays and he isn't throwing it downfield a lot. We just default to, well, he's really good pre-snap. But that actually does feel like the case with Jared Goff. It doesn't feel like just this is how, all the efficiency metrics that mark him as a top 10 quarterback. This is actually why. It's one of the things that the Lions have empowered him with. And it's something that Dan Campbell talks about all the time because there was a little bit of hand-holding in Los Angeles because they made a conscious effort to build the offense around what he likes. And so that he has, several plays he can check to at the line, several protections he can check to at the line. And most of that falls on his shoulders, particularly now without Frank Ragnow at center. He's kind of held on to some of more of those responsibilities this year so far.
So if you were to kind of construct like a broad profile of who Jared Goff is as a quarterback with maybe like respect to pushing back against the most common misconceptions about him, like what would you say?
I think he's a very accurate quarterback who is actually probably more protective of the ball than maybe some people think. He fumbles a lot, and some of that might be hand size, and some of that might just be his lack of mobility. But he certainly doesn't like to put the ball in harm's way. He's certainly risk averse, which I think the Lions view as mostly a strength. He's not going to force the ball into tight coverage when he can take the check down and get 6 yards. But maybe that is the book on him. I mean, maybe I'm just reinforcing the book on him at that point. But I mean, I think that's who he is, and I think that's what the Lions want out of him, and it's what's made this offense, a top 5 scoring offense now, 3 years running. So, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's a mobile quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he likes to throw it deep a ton, but that is something that I think they want to be a bigger part of the offense that maybe hasn't materialized through 7 games is that deep shot offense. But it does feel like defenses are playing the Lions in a lot of too high shells that are kind of taking Jameson Williams away. And so Goff is perfectly happy dumping it off to Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs a whole bunch.
All right. So he's a yak merchant is what I'm hearing.
That's right. He's just fill in whatever you want merchant. He's just a discounting talent merchant. That's what he is.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Well, okay. So we've got 2 genuine yak merchants in the league right now, in Aaron Rodgers and Dylan Gabriel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers has like an astonishing 61.9% of his yards come after the catch. Number 1 in the league by like a lot. Dylan Gabriel at 56.4%. But here's the thing. Jared Goff is at 56.2%. That's like pretty interesting. But we wouldn't, despite the fact that the bulk of his production is coming after the catch. And these are all next gen stats numbers. I'm sure like PFF has slightly different numbers and stuff like that. But I feel like we all kind of come to this understanding that despite the fact that the bulk of his production is coming after the catch, we wouldn't necessarily call him a yak merchant in the same way that Patrick Mahomes last year and the year before, who had a lot of his yards come after the catch, we wouldn't have said the same thing. And so, like, what is it about the perception that we have of like Rodgers and Gabriel, and obviously current Rodgers, right? Rodgers and Gabriel, about the way that they approach kind of building yardage and gaining yards, because they dump it off and because they're asking other players to kind of do a bunch of additional work for them, versus Jared Goff, who, like, obviously he's got a bunch of like pretty good after catch receivers, where we're kind of not necessarily in that same spot with him.
It's a good question. I mean, I think part of it is just, doing it for as long as he has. It's like a proven strategy here in Detroit for 2.5 years, for 3 years of having a good offense that operates in that way. Whereas, with someone like Patrick Mahomes, it's like, well, he's relying on Yak last year because he's throwing it, he doesn't have the deep threats that he's had before. Mahomes has kind of been at the top of the ADOT list and at the bottom of the ADOT list in his career. And so I think the fact that he's capable of going deep, but didn't in a few years, we're like, what's with that? Why are you doing that now? But with Goff, it's fit what he does. It fits what the personnel is like, and it fits what the Lions scheme is. They, as much as they want explosive plays and can get explosive plays, sometimes it does feel like they prefer to kill a defense with 1,000 paper cuts, whether it's, these 5-6 yard runs, these, they've had a couple that Ravens game on Monday night where they had 2 90-yard drives that went like 15 plays plus each. They very much like and are capable and of living that way, where I feel like with some other teams that either haven't done it as much or have new quarterbacks or whatever reason, it maybe feels like a novelty or a crutch. This feels more like a feature of the offense than maybe a bug.
So his success rate right now is 4th in the NFL. He's 2nd in CPOE after Drake May.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that today too.
Yeah. But by like a distance, like Drake May is killing it in that stat. But completion percentage over expected, he's 2nd. Success rate, he's 4th. And in EPA per play, he's 9th. And then there's like an adjusted EPA per play that RBs don't matter uses, which like limits the effect of like receiver fumbles and stuff like that. Caps like the pick 6 penalty. And he's 9th in that too. So, not a huge change. And so product of all of that, like 2nd in CPOE, 4th in success rate, 9th in these two measures of EPA per play, 6th overall in their little composite statistic that they used to call Dakota after Dak Prescott, but I guess they just don't do that anymore. He's 6th in their EPA plus CPOE composite, which is much easier to say. Thank you. And so it seems like he's built off of kind of building these successes again and again and again. And when you take a look at some of those guys that I mentioned, Dylan Gabriel, Aaron Rodgers, their completion rate is, Aaron Rodgers has a completion rate of 68%. It's not like bad. It's above average. But like Goff's completion rate is 74.9%, which I believe I read a newsletter. I don't think it was yours. I'm sorry. That said it was 2nd in the NFL again behind Drake May.
Yes. Yep.
But should May like fall off and he finishes the year and Goff finishes the year around here, that's a completion percentage record. That he, like Drew Brees, right? That's the one he breaks.
Sure. That sounds right.
Sure. And I feel like like you and I are both kind of analytically minded in different ways, but I feel like generally speaking, like that kind of group of analysts doesn't really care about completion percentage that much. But here I think it's probably pretty impressive, right? Like that, like it speaks obviously to the talent of the receiving core, right? Because completion percentage is also built off of drop rate. Sure. And we know that distance matters and depth matters, but that's like what CPOE is for. Do you think that kind of consistency adds something additional to the offense that gives us a little bit more information than something like yards per attempt does?
In his case, a little bit. I think like every stat, there needs to be some sort of context put into that. And the fact that Goff is constantly near the bottom of the league in ADOT certainly needs to be kind of mentioned in the same sentences as completion percentage. But like you said, if you include completion percentage above expected and he's top 2 in that certainly gives, I think, more credence to that not just being him dumping it off to Jahmyr Gibbs every time. It's finding the open receiver. It's finding, the guy that he knows he can trust, which in a lot of cases is just Amon-Ra St. Brown. But, I think having a receiver like that is something that you kind of see in a lot of these, top tier quarterback eras. Peyton Manning has his Reggie Wayne. Tom Brady has, a couple of guys in there that he really, really trusted. And so I think to have an efficient offense, to have an efficient passer rating or completion percentage or whatever you want to throw out there, there needs to be a guy he can trust. And for Jared Goff, it's very much Amon-Ra St. Brown, and their connection is deeper on a level than maybe everyone short of Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua at this point. And I think, not to just credit everything that Jared Goff has done with, giving all that credit to Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I feel like that is certainly a mutually beneficial relationship. But I don't think any of Goff's stats look like they do if he didn't have St. Brown as his kind of, security blanket.
So I'm looking up Goff versus. I love having access to True Media, man. This is like addictive. I'm looking up Goff versus Brian Flores over the past couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a happy sentence for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what they've scored 30 points in like 4 or 5 straight in that matchup.
Yeah. So he has 0.3 EPA per dropback in those games, which, like, for context, 0.3 EPA per dropback overall would rank 3rd so far this year. Given like the insane seasons that like Drake May and Daniel Jones and somehow Jordan Love are having, I don't trust that. And he's the second quarterback who's had multiple games in EPA per dropback against Flores. Sorry, Justin Herbert after Thursday.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing that's really interesting about this to me is that all these quarterbacks that have pretty good EPA per play or success or whatever production you want to use against Brian Flores have really quick times to throw, like Justin Herbert, 2.57%. Yeah. And Goff doesn't. I mean, it's not like long. It's not like 3 seconds, but it's like 2.84 seconds in his average time to throw. We know that, the way the Flores defense operates is they're trying to get quarterbacks to throw quickly. And a lot of that's a product of like quarterback pressure and adjusting to the blitz beforehand and stuff like that. But I'm kind of curious why, when we just talked about this offense, why it's the case that he does hold on to the ball a little bit longer than other quarterbacks who've been successful against this particular defense, given that, the blitz rate is basically, what it always is, like something between 40 and 900%.
Right. No, I mean, that's a really good question and kind of an interesting stat to pull up, because I'm not sure I intuitively would have thought that as well. My first instinct there is the offensive line probably just plays a little bit better. The Lions obviously like to do a lot of play action, and that requires time. So, one big question I have going into this matchup is how big of a factor Frank Ragnow has been in these matchups in the past, because he was a guy that was an excellent studier, a guy that knows the game back to front, a guy that very much was involved in the protection plans every single week. And I felt like games like this were where he really shined. And so without that, will they have as much time? Will they be able to pick out the protections as early as want? How much of that is now on Goff, and how good will he be at it against, a defense he's certainly familiar with? But, if I had to guess it again, I'd probably go back to their insistence on play action and the amount of time that requires, being a reason why why Jared Goff maybe holds on to the ball a little bit longer than some of the other successful quarterbacks against this team. But, I wouldn't expect it to be, like you said, I mean, it's not a huge number at this point, and I wouldn't expect it to be this week either. But I do think the loss of Frank Ragnow could be felt particularly this week more so than other weeks, but we'll see. It's not like Graham Glasgow's a rookie that hasn't seen this defense or hasn't played center a whole bunch, but it just isn't quite the same as an all-pro center.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for context, the Vikings are, according to Next Gen Stats, second in the NFL in blitz rate, which is a very shameful place for them to be. They want to be first. But the Falcons are at 51.8%. The Vikings are at 48.5%. And then the next highest is 10 percentage points lower with the Steelers at 38.9%. So the Vikings, obviously, they blitz a lot. They blitz on nearly half their dropbacks. But against Jared Goff, they blitz on 65% of his dropbacks over the past 3 years. That's fascinating to me because he's been pretty effective against the blitz. But I feel like, I don't know, we had this conversation last year when I was like, well, you know, players who are good against the blitz are sometimes worse against the Brian Flores blitz. And that doesn't seem to be the case. But given kind of this scenario that you've presented, or the situation you presented, where you don't have this center, where the protections might fall more onto the quarterback, would you anticipate the Vikings to just kind of keep sending the house and stuff like that and just being like, well, surely someone will tackle Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I think so. I think that's something that's probably hard to get Brian Flores off of in the first place. And, you know, Jared Goff, you know, if you look at some statistics, although they lie, I think this early in the season, his passer rating under pressure is a good, you know, I think he's top 10 in passer rating. Or last year he was top 10 in passer rating against the pressure. This year I think he's like 22nd. Again, small sample sizes, all that, but you know, versus the blitz versus the blitz compared to versus pressure are two different things. I don't think Jared Goff is a great quarterback versus pressure. I do think he can be a good one against the blitz because, again, like he goes through all those pre-snap reads. He's able to find his check down or find the open receiver pretty quick. But once the pressure is there, I think we all know he's not a guy that's going to create out of structure. He's not a guy that can avoid sacks particularly well. His only defense is getting rid of the ball quickly. And so I do think that's still going to be the play for Flores, even if it means allowing Jared Goff to nickel and dime them to death, because the thing that's kind of been the talk of the town right now when it comes to the Lions offense, which, believe it or not, Detroiters are a little upset about, even though they're the third scoring highest offense in football right now, is third down.
Spoiled.
Yeah, a little bit. But third down, they're like 22nd in the league in third down conversion rate, and it's not a first and second down thing because they're actually averaging the most yards per play on first and second down, 6.0 yards per play on first and second down. I think they're fifth in terms of yardage to go on third down. They're just not converting. And so if I'm a defensive coordinator and I see a team struggling on third down, I'd be kind of okay allowing them to nickel and dime you down the field, because at some point you're going to face a third down and you're not particularly good at it right now. And obviously I think the Lions let's use a different word.
Dude, you got a lot of talking ahead of you today, man.
I know. I've already been podcasting for 4 hours today too, so forgive me. Their likelihood to go for it on fourth down obviously affects how they approach third down a little bit. But even if you take away those instances where they're clearly setting up a fourth down, they're just not converting at a rate that they want to. So, I would still try to attack Jared Goff as much as I can, because I just think he's not quite as effective as he's been in previous years.
All right, so I looked up success rate versus the blitz, EPA per dropback against the blitz, passer rating against the blitz. The Lions are number one in all three. So it really, like, if you send pressure, you should generate pressure, is like what I'm hearing. Is like you can't not affect the quarterback on these blitzes, which I don't think the Vikings are going to get a 65% pressure rate in this game. So it'll be kind of curious to see how that all plays out. Now let's talk a little bit about Jahmyr Gibbs, who, I don't know, like 6th, 7th best running back in the NFL. What do you think?
That sounds rightish. I know Lions fans would be upset with me saying that. And, you know, I think he's certainly knocking on the door of top 5. But, you know, there's a lot of really good running backs. We're rich with running backs right now. So it's kind of tough. But yeah, so with that understanding, like, I'm not going to keep on harping on like the investment. It's already baked into the cake. But with that understanding, do you think that like the way the Lions continue to move forward, given kind of the changing nature of the offensive line, like Taylor Decker, like regressing a little, we'll talk about that. You've got a new right guard, you've got a new center. And like, this is Christian Mahogany's first season starting, right? Like he didn't actually. Yeah. Full time. Yeah. He started like 2 games last year.
Yeah. So new look offensive line. And in my eyes, obviously the offensive line affects both running and passing, obviously, but it feels like you're more dependent on their quality of play in the running game than in the passing game. With that in mind, do you think that kind of, and this is, I haven't looked up the run pass ratios, I haven't looked at it expected, so I could be wrong about this, but do you think that at least the philosophical focus, whether or not it actualizes itself on the field, the philosophical focus on the run serves them well this year? You're right. They're third in points. They're second in points per drive, but like kind of just broadly speaking.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a little bit of a rough go, to be quite honest. If you look at success rate in running the ball, I think they're somewhere around 20th. Just certainly not what we're accustomed to seeing. I think 18th, actually, now that I think about it a little bit more. They're not quite as explosive as they've been in the past in terms of just big plays, 10+ yard runs. I think they're significantly down from last year with the rate so far. But it has not changed their strategy one bit. If you look at first and second down, early down run rate, I think they're second in the league. If you look at second and long run rate, which I know is Ben Baldwin's least favorite thing in the world, the Lions are either first or second in run rate there. It's still very much baked into the cake of who this team is. And like I said, despite all that, they're still gaining the most yards per play on first and second down. It's just, again, not converting on third down. That's really been the biggest issue with them. And I think a lot of that is you look at like stuffed rate, things like that. They're not a great short yardage running team right now. I think a lot of that definitely has to do with the new look interior offensive line, but it's something they're confident is getting better. And it's something they're confident in being good when it needs to be in January. And so they're just going to continue to do it, continue to rep it, continue to rep logs with those three guys on the interior playing together. But is it maybe serving them the best right now? I mean, maybe not, but I think in the long term, they think it's going to be worth it.
I kind of understand that, especially because you've got a little bit of leeway, as it were, in terms of like, well, we can kind of experiment a little bit now because the offense is just killing it. So don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm looking at, Jahmyr Gibbs is, I think, the second most utilized running back in the, like 66 carries. So I guess I don't know about touches. But he's running the ball a lot. And as a result, I believe he leads the league in total rushing yardage. What I find kind of interesting is that he's still generating positive EPA per play on rushes, which is pretty rare, right? Like we don't always see that. Actually, let me take a look at that. I should double check that.
He's not number one in rushing yards. I'm not.
Oh no, sorry. I was looking at that over 3 years. Let me get this
that
right.
makes more sense. I'm like, Jonathan Taylor still exists, right?
Yeah. And James Cook just had a game.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I've been screwing up the filters a lot. Okay, so he's still. Let's take a look. This is really great podcast content, by the way, where I just like to look up stuff.
Let me look it up. Click.
Yeah, what's going on? Here we go. So he's still positive in EPA per rush at 0.04. It's out of all running backs, I think it's like 10th or something like that. But, you typically don't get positive EPA per play. But David Montgomery is absolutely friggin' not. He's losing EPA per play when he's running the ball. And so it seems like there is a huge quality difference here between the two running backs. And we're getting to see that when you've got a running back that's maybe a little closer to standard in terms of like the level of quality. And I love David Montgomery. I don't want to but you get a little bit closer to the standard level of quality that we expect from someone. That's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing and not hugely negative, but like pretty negative EPA per play. Whereas Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of producing a lot on his own. So do we think that like Gibbs's natural capability here, the ability to produce yards and value above what the offensive line can do, is in part kind of pushing the Lions, obviously Goff is playing well, to have such a successful offense this year?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think he's been the Lions made it very clear going into training camp that this was kind of the year that he would assume the 1A to David Montgomery's 1B, because before this year it was David Montgomery the first drive of the game, pretty much every game that he was healthy. Part of that felt like a setting of the tone type of thing. Like let's send a message. Let's be really physical at the line and try to run over these offenses. But now it's been Jameer that started, I think, every single game. And the reasoning for that is exactly what you just said. He's explosive. He can create in his zone. He's not a guy that's just, blazing fast. He can run between the tackles and has good enough vision to run between the tackles and break tackles up the middle. So I just think that has had the dual effect of obviously making Jahmyr Gibbs a more efficient and productive back, but I also think it may have detrimentally affected Dave Montgomery, because when he is getting out of the field, it's a little later in the game. A lot of times he's coming onto the field when the game's already in hand, and he's the guy that's there to run it into 9-man boxes when they're up 14 points at the end of the game. And so I think that hurts his success rate a little bit. I think if you look at who's faced the most stacked boxes in the league, according to NFL Pro, it's David Montgomery by pretty significant margin. It's something like ridiculous, like 60%. So that's not helping him either. But at the same time, I don't think the Lions would have it any other way. And I do think they need to be more efficient on the ground. And again, I think it goes back to that interior offensive line. But I think with Jahmyr, he's getting put in more advantageous situations, but he's also just a more talented back at this point in his career.
Yeah, of all the running backs that have a positive EPA per play, he's got the lowest success rate. So I think that kind of speaks to, and also it tells us that he's living off of explosives. So it kind of speaks to a lot of the things that you're saying there. Okay. Probably don't have to worry about these other running backs, right? We can just move on. Tight ends. Sam Laporta, real tight end. Is he a real human? Are we happy with him?
Yeah, I think so. He's become a little bit more of a 2A tight end, blocking a little bit more than normal. So his receiving numbers are a little bit down, but I think they might actually be up from last year, but down from the year before. There was a conversation
early in the season, right? It was like, hey, he's not getting involved. And then the last couple of games, he got like super involved.
Yeah. There's really no concern there. I think the only reason maybe before then that his numbers may have been down was just because they didn't have Taylor Decker and they were just attaching two tight ends to the left tackle, whoever was playing that week, because it's not great behind Taylor Decker. But no, I don't think there's any concern about Sam Laporta. I think he's a pretty efficient player, both in terms of the way he's blocking and obviously his threat in the run game and pass game.
Well, let's talk about the offensive line then. So I mentioned that I think Taylor Decker might be regressing. He's like the 10th year of his career, so it's not like a huge knock if that's what's happening. But am I reading that correctly?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, the major issue right now is that he's been dealing with a shoulder injury since week 1, and he's just kind of been in and out of the lineup, in and out of practice. Missed, I think, 2 games in a row. For the first month of the season, I don't know if he got in a single practice. It was that bad. And, he finally came back right before the bye week against the Bucs, and you could see him holding his shoulder the entire game. After the game, he was kind of asked, like, how's the shoulder holding up? And he wouldn't talk about it. He was like despondent. And so I think he's going to give it a go this game. Seems like he's already on the right practice track, but it's clearly affecting him, and he'll be the first to admit it. He said, he'll say, some things like, I'm playing good, but I don't think I'm playing to my standards. And that's what makes this injury really frustrating, is because I feel like it's holding me back. In week 1, before the season even started, like, he even admitted he had thoughts of retirement. Like, that's how frustrating the shoulder has been. So it's something that he's had surgery on before. So, I don't want to put all the blame on his shoulder, because, like you said, he's in the twilight of his career anyways. There's going to be some natural, decline there. But it's also very clear to me that the shoulder is impacting him in a way that it's making him a worse player.
Which shoulders? I'm trying to remember if it was this team or a different team that was thinking about switching sides for their offensive tackle because the injury to the shoulder would impact like their ability to like long arm and stuff like that. Is it his inside shoulder?
That's a great question that I feel like I should know, but I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Bad reporter. That's terrible.
Yeah. Yep. I tried to Google it while you were answering the question, and
nice.
What do you know? Google's terrible.
That's crazy. Have you asked ChatGPT? No, ask Sumer Brain. See if they can.
I read most of your article on that, and I was already feeling someone sent me something like, oh, this seems like something you really like. I plug in my very first, like, very simple question. Hey, how much zone did the Lions run in this game? And it gave me a number that was more defensive snaps than they played. So I'm like, okay, this is great.
Dope. You love it. Okay, so this interior offensive line, new faces, new roles. You've got a rookie on here. You've got a second-year player. You've got Graham Glasgow. That's a Michigan alum, right? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
All right. There we go.
Nailed it.
Let's go. What should I know about these guys?
Well, I think all of them are better run blockers than pass protectors. Maybe with the exception of Graham. They're road graders, all the like very stereotypical things you say about guys who are good against run, dirt bags, whatever, like all these mean spirited adjectives.
Wait, do we have any Dominic Raiolas on here? Is that
no? Well, that's the thing. Like, they are kind of sweethearts off the field, but like they're really gritty and dirty and all that stuff on the field. So, I think the thing that's really tough to gauge about them right now is when it comes to pass protection, how much of it is technical stuff, how much of it is communication, how much of it is just recognizing the right things in front of you. The first week of the season, it was all terrible. It was an absolute mess. They were on the road in Lambeau. They couldn't hear each other. Just so many missed assignments across the board. Most of that stuff has been cleaned up, but it's still, pops its head up every now and then where there'll just be an unblocked defender in the backfield at the time of the handoff. So that's something that's still happening here and there. They're getting better, but the way Dan Campbell described the interior offensive line this week was they've made a ton of strides from week one, but they have so much more room to grow. And I think that's absolutely fair. So you play some games up front, which I think the Vikings might do a little bit. It can confuse them. It can cause some issues. And like I said, some of the short yardage run situations just aren't as clean as they've been in years past. So I don't know if there's like one necessarily, weak point there when it comes to, pass rush or anything like that. I guess as you would expect, Tate Ratledge, the rookie right guard, is the one that's still making the most mental errors. Mm-hmm. But in general, it just, as a unit, it feels like they're still very much gelling and not quite where they need to be.
Okay. And Ratledge, I know, I'm not going to say controversial. I mean, it's an offensive line pick, but I know that it felt like that one, like many of the Lions picks over the years, it felt like that one was selected at an unusual slot in the second round. Is that the feeling you got when it happened? Has there been any discussion about, picking Tate Ratledge in the second round? And has he kind of, I mean, he's starting and it sounds like he's at least got some strengths, right? He's a run blocker and stuff like that. Does it feel like he's already beginning to fulfill the expectations of his pick slot?
I think so. Really, the big question with him and his future is does he stay at right guard? Because, they briefly tried right after Frank Ragnow's retirement for him to play center. And I do think they have a belief that could be where he ends up long term. They consider him a pretty smart player, just not ready yet. Just kind of, let's have you learn our offense. Let's have you learn what defenses are going to try to do to manipulate you and then maybe kick you over to center when the time comes. That could happen as soon as next year. Graham Glasgow is still under contract for another year after this one, so they could put that off 2 years. But I think the long-term plan might be to put him there at center. And if he becomes their long-term center, he's absolutely worth that second round pick. I don't think there has been much question about where he was chosen and the returns on that so far. Those questions are reserved for the Lions' third round pick, which we'll probably get to in a little bit here.
For sure. To some extent, the first round pick, but whatever.
Sure.
Okay, so let's talk about this receiving group. You've got obviously Khalif Raymond, who I care a lot about and talk about all the time. No, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is for sure a top 15 receiver now, right?
You won't go top 10? I can't get you to go top 10.
We'll see what happens at the end of the year when I'm putting together more All-Pro teams.
Okay. I'll give you the out. I'll let you squirm through that one.
But no, what do we think about the progress of Jameson Williams? What do you think about his fit in the offense? What do we think about kind of where you're feeling about the trade with the Vikings to go and grab him and so on? Because it feels like there is talent. We have seen it flash, but I don't know how consistent we think it is. But it also feels like he's more involved with the offense this year.
Well, he was more involved last year than he was this year so far.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of like actual production, I think he's trending towards like a 700-yard season after having 1,000 yards last year. He's another one of those things that's just was like a major topic during the bye week here, where people are concerned about him not getting the ball enough. People are concerned about, John Morton, the new offensive coordinator, not scheming him enough after saying this offseason that he's due for a breakout season after his 1,000-yard season. So I just think, very, very weird comment and follow up on it. But I guess the best way to say it is I feel like the chemistry between him and Goff still quite isn't where it needs to be. I don't know if it's a level of trust or Jared Goff being risk averse or JMO not being as precise with his routes as someone like Amon-Ra. But it hasn't quite clicked in the way that I think most people expected this year. He's still, a deep threat. He's still a guy that has overcome a lot of his early deficiencies where he was just running 9 routes and clearing safeties and being a decoy. That route tree looks a lot better now. It's just the production hasn't quite followed as expected. And so we'll see where it goes from here. I do tend to think that the Lions spent a lot of this bye week probably trying to figure out ways to get him the ball, maybe a little bit more short yardage stuff, maybe a little more crossing routes and using his speed to outrun linebackers or corners and turn up field. But it's been a little bit of a disappointing start with him, and for this season in particular. The Lions will try to rationalize it by saying, well, teams are playing 2 deep safeties. They're bracketing him. He's a really good downfield blocker. Things like that feel a little backhanded. But yeah, it's kind of one of the puzzling things for this offensive start that he's not producing it the way that I think expectations were at.
And give me kind of like the short profile on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra?
Yeah.
Extremely detailed route runner, really good hands, and just has an ability to know where Jared Goff wants him to be and where Jared Goff is going to throw the ball.
So what is it about his play style that works so well against the Flores defense, which is like, obviously it's like blitz forward, so there is going to be space, but it is also like it's a zone defense, which you don't tend to see a lot paired with like a blitzing defense. And it can be kind of confusing for quarterbacks and receivers to try and figure out what they need to do and where they need to be. So like, why is it that he's producing so well against it?
Well, I think some of it is again kind of that telepathic connection he has with Jared Goff. I think Amon-Ra in general probably works best against zone because he knows where the soft spots are. He can kind of, because I don't think he's a great man-to-man separator necessarily. I say he's really good in terms of his route running, but he's not particularly quick. He's not particularly big. He's not particularly strong. Instead, I think he's very, very smart and very, very capable of knowing what the defenses are trying to do to trick him or to try to defend him. So I think that just works for him. I think that's actually probably a more ideal situation than maybe a team that plays man heavy. Mm-hmm.
All right. And Tesla, let's talk about him.
Okay.
I think the consensus board had him as a 6th round pick, I want to say.
Uh-huh. That sounds about right.
So he's drafted in the 3rd round. Super athlete, right? Has the attitude that you'd want in a Lions player, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's my scouting report.
No, you got it right. They're still kind of scratching the surface there. Obviously,
great preseason.
Great preseason, and like his first 2 NFL catches were both one-handed grabs. One a touchdown in a garbage time touchdown against the Packers. The other being a very impressive sideline grab. And I think there's been nothing since. Maybe one other catch since.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, Khalif Raymond is actually getting more playing time than he is. Early on, it is starting to shift more towards Tesla, but I think he played it in the slot most of the time. He did not have to deal with press man coverage in college almost at all. And so that's, I think, where the biggest adjustment is and needs to be. And so, he's not where I wouldn't say he's not where they want him to be right now, because that suggests that he's behind schedule. I think this was always viewed as something that was going to take a little bit of time, which is why I was a little bit surprised that they traded Tim Patrick at the beginning of the year. It kind of felt to me like, let's just have Tim Patrick for the first couple months of the season, maybe trade him at the deadline. And that's when Tesla would take over. But he's going to take some time. I wouldn't expect him to have a big impact on this game. Although I will say I was, again, a little bit surprised by how they used him in the Buccaneers game on Monday night, where the Lions were in a 4th and 2 situation or 4th and 3. And he just threw a deep shot jump ball to Isaac Tesla, and Goff missed him, overthrew him a little bit. Tesla did get held a little bit, but I'm not going to harp on that. I mean, he's just like, I think the role for him right now is jump ball receiver, contested catch guy. Because he does have incredible hands, because he has the size and the speed, the physicality. But route running it's not there yet. So he's not going to be an every down type of guy where you're going to have to account for him every now and then. But, red zone, got to have it plays. I wouldn't be surprised to see them test the Vikings corners just by nature of him having good hands.
Okay. All right, let's talk about this defense and what remains of the secondary. Actually, let's start with the secondary. You got absolute dog, Amik Robertson. Yep. You've got a guy who definitely thinks he's an absolute dog in Brian Branch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I don't know if Rockison is healthy. I think Avonte Maddox is not healthy. Terry and Arnold, there was some question about whether or not he'd return this week, right?
Yep. It's trending in the right direction. Was a full participant in practice theoretically. Today they didn't practice, but
but
for the injury report they were.
Yeah.
Kirby
Joseph, a player I don't like, but I'm not going to call dirty. Because
I think you just did by saying
no. Hold on. I genuinely mean that, because I think a lot of Viking fans got way out of out from under their skis on that. Sure. But I also just I don't like him.
You're allowed to not like him.
Yeah. And then, Art Millette, right?
Technically, yes.
Yeah. and then we got Gophers legend Dan Jackson on IR. We got Ennis Rakestraw on IR. We got DJ Reed on IR. We got Khalil Dorsey, which I don't know how much that matters, on IR.
Yeah, special teamer.
Gunner. Yeah. How we feel? Who's playing, and how we feeling?
So Amik is on the outside now. For now,
good. That's all he's ever been good at.
he's been okay as a nickel, but while DJ Reed is out, Amik has essentially been corner one.
One of the few guys shorter than DJ Reed. Fantastic,
right? The hope is that Terrion Arnold eventually becomes that. If I had to guess, I think he's going to play this week. It's a very weird, interesting situation with him where Dan Campbell went in front of a press conference and said, he's going to be out a long time with his shoulder injury. And then 2 days later, he's not even going to get put on IR. He could return by the end of October. And so he got a second opinion, and the second opinion was way different. And so but the thing is, Terrion has not been playing particularly well. He's started to turn things around a little bit, but it's the Lions don't play an easy form of defense when it comes to being an outside corner because of their reliance on being so man coverage heavy. And so it's taken a long time for Terrion to adjust to that. He has all the confidence in the world. That's not the issue. And he's got all the athletic traits that you need. He's not particularly, I think a lot of times when it comes to man coverage corners that struggle, they point to he's too slow. You need a 4.4 guy. He's not a 4.4 guy, but he's not slow. A lot of times he's in the right position. He's getting called for a billion pass interference, illegal contacts, things like that. So he needs to be a little less handsy, but I expect him to start on the outside. If it's not him, it's probably going to be Rock Yassin, who has actually been playing kind of okay, surprisingly.
Yeah.
They might get Avonte Maddox back to help at the nickel. I don't know if he would start at the nickel or not. It could be Art Millette, who's held down that spot the last couple of weeks. But that's kind of who they got starting at corner. At safety, Branch is obviously back from his suspension. I don't know if Kirby Joseph is going to play. He's been dealing with a knee injury all season and not off to a great start in terms of practicing. I don't believe he quote unquote practiced. If that doesn't happen, they got a guy named hold on, I gotta remember Thomas Harper, a guy that they actually got off waivers at the very beginning of the season, who played some good ball for the Raiders last year. But when they had a regime change, they didn't want him around anymore, and so he played pretty well last week in his first action with the Lions against the Bucs, in that kind of miraculous performance where you're missing 4 guys in your starting secondary and you somehow hold the Buccaneers to 9 points and make Baker Mayfield look terrible for some reason. But whenever something like that is so unexpected happens, I become very skeptical that it's replicable.
Right.
So, there's certainly some concerns with the Lions secondary as it is right now. I do think they expect DJ Reed back in a week or two, which will help kind of, trickle down effect where, I think him and Terrion are expected to be your starting corners, maybe with Amik rotating in a little bit for Terrion. But then, when you go nickel set, then I think you probably kick Amik in and then you have Terrion on the outside with DJ Reed. And then when Kirby's back, I think that's one of the best safety duos in football. So I think the Lions expect, this kind of goes back to how we started the conversation, where like the defense, the injuries right now don't look great, but a month down the line, it seems like they're going to be right back to where they want to be.
Are we going to get another Buggy Brooks turning point on Brian Branch in this game? Do we then?
Louis Riddick.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God.
Let's throw the right person under the bus.
Oh boy. Yeah. Future GM Louis Riddick. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Boy, that got the locker room fired up.
Yeah. People. Okay. I'm going to be. I saw you tweeting about it, and I don't think I agree with most people's take, including yours.
That's fine. I get it. I don't know how many Vikings fans even know what we're talking about, but
yeah, let's talk about it. So was Juju Smith-Schuster? Was that it?
Yeah. Yep.
So against the Chiefs and Juju Smith-Schuster, Brian Branch was not having a particularly good day in coverage, and then also there was, and then also there was a little bit of chippiness, and then there may have been what many people would call an illegal block in the back.
Yep.
And Branch took exception to that. And Juju Smith-Schuster's not the most diplomatic guy in the world either. No. And so after the game, I would argue that it is actually accurate to characterize Juju Smith-Schuster's offer of a handshake to be sarcastic. I know some people are like, what's a sarcastic handshake? And it's like,
Right. Sure.
But it's still offering a handshake, right? Like at the end of the day, like he's kind of being a dick about it. But he's offering a handshake. And instead of that, we throw hands a little bit here and there. And Dan Campbell did not super enjoy that. He was very upset about it after the game.
Yep.
And which I think is kind of interesting, right? Because Campbell, like as a coach, I love, but it feels like the locker room that's being built is not quite living up to kind of the standards of maturity all the time that you want, that he has expressed that he wants. And so it's kind of like an interesting roster build culture kind of, but that's like a separate question. And then he got Branch got suspended, right? If I remember correctly.
He got suspended a game. Yep.
Yeah. And then after that, there's like this big segment that they always do. And Louis Riddick is the one who narrates it. And I believe he writes most of it. And in the middle of it, he's doing what was the turning point because there's like a recap of the game. It's a pretty long one, but in the middle of it, there's like a clip, there's a bit on Brian Branch, and they called it the turning point. And obviously, chronologically, it doesn't make sense for Branch blowing up after the game for that to be the turning point of the game.
Right.
But it is like a storyline, and the video was cut in a way to kind of discuss Brian Branch's no good, very bad, terrible day. And they took that clip from that larger episode, tweeted it out as a standalone, and a lot of people thought, especially Lions fans, and it sounds like especially the Lions locker room, that this was like, I think you used the word weird, and it was like targeted, and maybe bullying and harassment are too far, but like on that spectrum, right?
Right. Yeah, I think I called it weird energy. And I think I stand by it. It's not often that I think like an NFL related account posts something that could be described as lowlights for a player. Okay. I get the idea of the segment, right? You're trying to build a narrative of what led to this skirmish. Now, I don't think giving up a pass to Travis Kelce is the reason why he threw hands at all, especially I think it was like a first drive clip that they showed. But I think part of the thing that I took, and offense is a strong word, probably an overstated word for it, is just the language. It's, he said he got showed up by Mahomes. He got juked by Xavier Worthy. He got burned by Kelce's basketball move, which, what? I don't even know what that means. Did he Euro step him? I don't think he did.
I was going to say he Euro stepped him. He got him on the gather, dude. That's crazy.
Right. And so that's the weird part for me, is just like, you can just say, he's giving up these plays. Just like the passive aggressive language of like, man, he's just getting his ass kicked out there. It's like, okay, I mean, you can do this in a different way and build your story however you want to.
Okay, but he did get his ass kicked, right? Like that's not an inaccurate.
Like I didn't really come away from that game thinking like, wow, Brian Branch had a horrible game. But I mean, he certainly had a dumb end to it. Like, I don't know. I think they listen, your NFL films, you create stories, you whatever, you build whatever narrative you want. But I think sometimes you can explain what happened with Juju Smith-Schuster shoved him in the back of a game that was already decided, with 2 minutes left, and a play that he didn't have to do that. It pissed Brian Branch off. So he fought the dude. Like that's really what happened.
Okay. I'm not going to push back too much. I just think like it's okay for media to be critical, but I think I kind of understand like when it's the official NFL account, it hits a little bit different. And critical coverage of Brian Branch, I think most people didn't object to in most circumstances, and this one stood out as unique in particular ways. So, are we going to get another one? Is I guess my question. I don't know, like who in the Vikings? Yeah, that'd be so funny. I'm trying to think like who and I could, it's like purple tinted glasses. Maybe I'm just like reading the Vikings the wrong way. But I feel like I don't know if there's anybody on the Vikings who would evoke that kind of reaction. Any defenders that I can think of off the top of my head that, Brian Branch offensive players off the top of my head who Brian Branch would be like really ticked off about the way that they like. If Adam Thielen was still on the team, that would be fine. I could see him being enough of a pest to do that. Oh, I guess he is on the team, but he's not going to do anything. I was going to say, wait, did something happen? No. He's not going to do anything. Don't worry about it. He has like 3 catches. I've been warned of this before, and he's going to pop off. He's going to have 7 for 120. That would be insane. So maybe Adam Thielen, because he does run his mouth a little bit, but other than guys who get like 5 snaps.
But did you see the video of, I think it was Zaire Franklin, who's just like, Juju deserved to get his ass beat. He did the Lord's work.
That's what I mean about like, you can't build a culture like that.
Well, Zaire Franklin's not on the Lions, to be clear. That is a non-Lions player. That is, I don't know, one of the billion of NFL players that has their own podcast now.
It's good. That's great. We're all content creators in the stage we call life. Do we think there are any like offensive Vikings players who could like evoke this kind of reaction from Brian Branch?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Right, because like Juju has like a reputation.
Yes.
And there's like a ton of pests on a ton of teams, and I'm not saying the Vikings are squeaky clean. Jordan Addison has had a second moving violation in like 2 years, right? Like,
right.
Like, this is not me not being critical of the Vikings, but I just feel like it's kind of hard to get mad at Aaron Jones,
Right. Well, He's got to play more than 10 snaps a game, too.
Also that, yeah, right? Yeah. But like, I don't think Justin Jefferson has caused a fight, right? Like, I guess is what I'm getting at.
There's too much mutual respect there.
Yeah, so it would be fun, but I think we're not going to get another one of those. All right, let's talk about this linebacker group, sans Malcolm Rodriguez, right? So
yeah, he returned to practice from his torn ACL today, but he's not going to play for a couple weeks here.
All right, so we've got Jack Campbell, who I still can't figure out if he's good. Alex Anzalone, who seems really good, but like not in the way where you're like, that guy's a Pro Bowler, like one of those guys.
Yeah, much to his dismay. I know he really wants one.
And then Derek Barnes seems to be getting kind of more play and a big role. And it seems like he's fine because he was like a pass rusher in college, right? And it seems like he's like figuring it out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting group because I think each of them are very good at a thing, and that makes them work together quite well. They live in base all the time. They don't play a ton of nickel. And so you'll see all three of those guys out there sometimes like 70-80% of the time. With Jack, I think he's become a pretty darn good linebacker. The one thing that he still struggles with is, I would say, zone coverage. That's probably his least good trait. But he's been active in the pass rush. He's been active he's always been, I think, a pretty good run defender, and he's starting to, battle out there as a man-to-man coverage guy against tight ends and running backs. So I do think he's taking kind of the year 3 jump that they've expected. Anzalone has very much been their coverage linebacker. That's the best at doing that. I saw one of those charts where, he's in the top right corner in terms of
right.
I think,
yeah.
Up and to the right. I don't remember what. Yeah. He's just he's in the right quadrant.
Yeah. There are some coverage metrics on the x-axis and the y-axis, and look at them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then Barnes is like a super interesting piece that they've built and a very important role for at the kind of Sam linebacker role where he is rushing the passer quite a bit. He's sometimes setting the edge in the run game, and he can drop into coverage and play the game that way. And so I think with him, his best asset is just his versatility. He adds a lot of unpredictability to the Lions defense. He becomes kind of a moving piece. And I think that's with new defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard. I think he likes to use all those linebackers in a little bit of varied roles. But Barnes feels the most versatile of all of them. And so he's kind of the chess piece they'll move around. He's not like an extremely good pass rusher or anything like that, but he's a guy that I think knows how the pass rushing role is supposed to be played. So he's pretty good in terms of rush lane integrity. He knows when to go power, when to go speed, those sort of things. So, maybe not the most athletic guy in terms of a pass rusher, but a guy that can fill that role while also doing pretty much anything else out there.
The defensive line, Aiden Hutchinson, top 3. I can't put him anywhere better than top 3. Miles and Micah are just, but top 3, top 5, top 7 pass rusher. Where do you put him?
I think top 3. It's probably fair.
3rd?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were having a discussion today because obviously Hutchinson got his big extension, but fell short of Micah's numbers, and we were just kind of trying to figure that out. And I do think Micah Parsons.
Well, it depends on like how the numbers are arranged and what's fake and what's not. And
also true.
Yeah.
I think there's no question that Parsons is, I don't know, leaps and bounds, but like significantly better than Aiden Hutchinson as a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. Aiden Hutchinson is the more well-rounded player, though. He plays 90-some% of the snaps for a reason. They trust him as an edge setter. They trust him as a run defender. But he's also just dynamic as a pass rusher too. I very much enjoyed the wide left article on the how deep your bag is as a pass rusher, and Hutchinson has a deep bag.
Check that out, James Foster, who writes like once a month for us, I think. Hey. like he just like pops into Slack and he's like, I'm thinking about this, and then 3 days later, I've got like a 15,000 word.
That's the best though. Like you just wait. You don't have to bug him. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Just like, I got an idea. Here it is. Boom.
Yeah. But yeah, so that one I think informs our understanding of like how we value and evaluate pass rushers, and I think Parsons and Garrett and Hutchinson all feature in various ways in this piece. Interesting thing about Hutchinson, and I was talking to Seth Walder, I think on Blue Sky, not on Twitter, where Hutchinson has a pretty low relative to these other high-level edge rushers, a pretty low win rate in ESPN's. So I don't know what PFF's is. And they were like, yeah, I kind of don't get it because obviously, what does he lead the league in sacks? No, that's Garrett.
Pressures, yes, but sacks.
Yeah. No. And they're like, yeah, I don't get it because, like, you know, he's leading the league in total pressures and they're using him a lot and whatever. And by the way, his PFF win rate is a lot higher, so that actually does help kind of resolve that. And I was like, I think what happens is because you're using chip data, you're requiring a player to physically move past the offensive tackle early in the down for it to be recorded as a win. Yep. And so you hurt power rushers in this metric. Does that effectively characterize how Aidan Hutchinson wins? Is it like through tackles?
I would say it properly describes the entire pass rushing mantra in Detroit. Okay. ESPN's pass rush win rate has been always very negative towards Detroit, and I think it's the fault.
They hate.
No, I just think it's the fault in the metric because I think the Lions they don't want guys who win upfield right away. Mm-hmm. Because that's you're losing contain with mobile quarterbacks. A lot of what they do is reliant on each other. So much of what they do is whether it's stunts and things like that. Like you need to win in this narrow lane in front of you. So don't go running around. Don't go like just chasing upfield. And very much everyone on that defensive line also has a stop the run first mentality. One of the things that Dan Campbell always talks about is what we need to improve upon is not getting upfield quicker. It's the transition from going from a stop the run mentality into a pass rush mentality. And so in a metric like ESPN's pass rush win rate, which is, I think you have to mark your pressure in 3.5 seconds or something, or it's a loss. I think the Lions scheme is specifically disadvantaged by that. And so, yeah, a lot of their pass rush is like, let's just go through the tackle. Let's just go through the guard. Hutchinson does a little bit of everything. There's definitely a lot of speed to power. There's definitely, one arm jabs, things like that. But he's also capable of spin moves and rushing around the edge. So I think of all the Lions pass rushers, he's the one that does a little bit more of the let's just get upfield stuff. But in general, yes, I do think the Lions like to go through their linemen rather than by them. To condense the pocket, they call it crushing the can. Rather than just getting upfield. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we know the name for it, I think really grounds the credibility of what you just said. Not that I didn't believe you, but it's kind of cool that we have that. Right. Sorry, I was very distracted the whole time you were saying something I'm sure was very intelligent because you said they're very reliant on each other. And the 1998 hit from Pra's Ghetto Superstar started playing in my head.
We rely on each other,
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, yeah. Hell yeah. And I was like, is it Ghetto Superstar? And I had to Google the lyrics. You were talking the whole time, and I was Googling the lyrics to see
you heard crushing the can. That's the only part that mattered.
I'm such a good podcast host, dude.
Listen, if you just here want to make references to late 90s, early 2000s rap anthems, I'm here for it.
I'm so glad you picked up on it. No, let's talk about this. Well, I mean, are there any other edge rushers here that are kind of worth additional conversation or discussion? Because I'm taking a look at it on our lads, and Pat O'Connor is the name of a punter, right? Who are these people? I know Al-Qadim Muhammad, right? I know that.
Yes.
I loved him coming out of college, and he seems fine. Yeah. I don't know who Tyler Lacey is.
I barely do either. But he's like the edge setter, run defender, early down run stopper guy that'll be in there occasionally on the edge. Al-Qadim Muhammad is obviously the better of the pass rushers that are left on the edge. What does he have? 5 sacks already this year? So he's actually, I think, only one behind Aiden.
Oh, wow.
He's kind of a relentless guy. He can slide to the interior a bunch. They've been playing him a lot on the interior, maybe some on early downs. I think that's going to drop, though, now that Ali McNeil is back. So I think you'll see a lot more Al-Qadim Muhammad on the edge, and he's been relatively productive, given that he's probably going to face a lot of one-on-ones with Aiden getting a lot of chips with, I think, Aleem McNeil and or anyone on that interior. I really like their defensive tackle group. DJ Reader obviously draws some double teams as well. I think Al-Qadim Muhammad has done a pretty darn good job taking on those, having the extra, I guess, the extra load, the extra expectations of being in more one-on-ones to win them. And he generally has done a pretty good job of it. His win rate in PFF is like ridiculous. It's almost right up there, I think, with Aiden. At least it was a week or two ago.
That's impressive. Because his win rate was like 25%. There's like a true pass set thing that where the Lions are further behind. But yeah, overall win rate pretty high. So yeah, this defensive tackle group is interesting to me. I've always been a fan of DJ Reader, who has in the back half of his career suffered a lot of injury problems. Not unique to the Lions defensive tackle group, incidentally.
Sure.
Aleem McNeil, like you mentioned, coming back. Tyleik Williams, they drafted in the first round, which, I mean, he's listed in our lads as just like a defensive tackle, and they've got a separate listing for nose tackles, and he's not in that row. And he's like 330 pounds. Is he a nose? Is he playing nose?
He's doing a little bit of it. Not a ton of it. In the long term, they think they have an Aleem McNeil clone. They think they have a guy who can play 3-tech, who can rush the passer and kind of do some of the two gapping that you would get out of a nose tackle. It's interesting because Aleem played a bunch of nose tackle in college, but was really more of a pass rusher. Tyleik played a bunch of 3-tech at Ohio State, but was really more of a nose tackle in terms of what he did. And so he's kind of doing that again now, where he's very much a first and second down type of guy. You'll see him two gap. You'll see him not give up much ground in the run game, but the pass rushing stuff just isn't quite there yet. So, they'll move him between nose and 3-tech a little bit. The problem is you have DJ Reader. You have Roy Lopez, who is also a pure nose that, will probably
great name, by the way, for all of our chess fans.
I agree. But he'll play about a dozen snaps too. So there really isn't, I think the reason he's not playing nose tackle is just like they already got two dudes doing that. I would fully expect him to move there next year when presumably DJ Reader is no longer here, maybe retired. I don't know.
You say no longer here like he's going to die. Does he have a terminal illness or something, man?
Hey, listen, we don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow. What's the coach that said that?
Could be dead on Sunday. Who knows?
That's right.
Okay, that's great. I think we covered all of our bases here, and I've kept you I think 30 minutes longer than I intended to.
Perfect.
Outstanding.
What's more podcasting to me today? I got
right. Yeah, I have to hop on
another
your
hour ahead
podcast.
of me, and then
right.
an Aiden Hutchinson emergency podcast because he signed. It's just been a great day.
Fantastic. And then you hate talking about special teams, so I guess I'll skip that.
Great.
Lions favored by more than a touchdown, I think, 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5. I think.
What do you think about
that? Is that what it was? I mean, I don't like giving big lines to divisional opponents, but man, my preliminary research on the Vikings is also very sad.
When you say preliminary research, it was I watched the Chargers game, or do you mean more than that?
Well, that and DVOA and EPA. I'm like, oh, this team isn't doing anything well right now. What's that about?
Hey, no, that did change it. Okay, I was going to say, their pass success rate, their EPA success rate against the pass defensively, and then it's now that just sounds pathetic, right? When you're they don't do anything well, and it's hold on, this one specific thing,
this very one specific metric tells me that they're at least average. Great. Okay.
All right, so you're projecting. I mean, because the Lions, if they don't have to keep a game close, they will not do it. They will score 40 on you if that's available to them. So do you think that, again, it's divisional, right? But do you think that that's gonna that we've got a blowout alert happening in this noon matchup? Or again, for you, it's 1 p.m. But us, it's a noon matchup.
That's right. I don't know because I I do know that I'm going to predict that in the long run when I get to my Friday prediction, because just like the statistical, I mean, the whole basis of my prediction column is basically like, here's what the stats say. And the stats say the Lions are a way better team than the Vikings. I don't feel it in my bones that that's actually true, though. It seems like maybe both tackles are going to play for the Vikings, which could change things up significantly. You never know when you have a young quarterback in his third career start how that's going to go. I haven't been particularly impressed with how it's gone, but maybe Jordan Addison makes a difference for him. I don't know. And then defensively, I can't trust that the Vikings are below average in everything. I respect Brian Flores a little bit too much to believe that the Lions are going to, hang 40 on them. Obviously, like we said before, the Lions have had a pretty good time against Brian Flores' defense, scoring 30 points in the past 4 or 5 in a row.
Chilling, yeah.
They've been chilling. But I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm still in that mode where I'm too hung up on the 2024 Vikings that I'm not trusting the 2025 Vikings in front of me. But I just think it'll be a competitive game. I'm still going to pick the Lions, and like I said, I'm probably going to pick a multi-score game when it comes to my actual official prediction on Friday.
But right now, breaking it down kind of on paper statistically, like breaking it down kind of by feel, right? It doesn't feel necessarily like a 2-score game,
right? I would say that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Where can people find you?
PrideOfDetroit.com is where all my written work is, except for the newsletter stuff. But if you want to support an independent-ish, it's not independent. I don't know why I'm calling that. I'm not even getting paid by subscription. So, if you want to pay SB Nation, you can go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe and get some quote unquote
you
premium
went from a lie
content.
to like a anti-sell, I think.
I kind of did. What I would actually encourage Vikings fans to do is starting November 1st, we do a charity drive every year. This year, we're going to be supporting the University of Michigan Rogel Cancer Center.
Does it involve your mustache? I feel like it has in the past.
It does, yeah. I'm going to be growing out a mustache. I might be halfway there at this point. So, you want to come after the game to our Monday night stream on Twitch and YouTube, just search Pride of Detroit. And if you guys win, you can all donate however many points the Vikings score and troll us. That would be the best kind of troll you could do to us, is go over to our live stream and donate to a good cause.
Great. Do you have stickers?
Nope. Nope.
All right. I'm subscribed to the newsletter, at least last I checked.
Nice.
Head over there and check out Jeremy's work. He's fantastic. And unlike a lot of Lions fans, has not turned into a worse person because of the Lions' success. So
that is completely not true.
All right. Thanks so much, man.
You're welcome, buddy.
All right, let's go to the mailbag. And the first question is from Big Ale MN, who asks, the Vikings commit a lot of penalties on kickoff returns. Are they far worse than other teams? And how do they fix that so that Miles Price's returns actually matter?
Well, hey, man, all returns matter. Yeah, so I was interested enough in this question because it felt true, but I didn't really have the tools to super quickly look it up. The data I had access to wasn't doing a very good job of very easily parsing it. And I admit I only went to StatHead, NFLpenalties.com, and I used the True Media access I have to try and see if it was readily available. And I couldn't find it super easily, so I just downloaded the play-by-play of every kickoff that's happened this year. And just did like some really broken Excel stuff that happened to work. It's nuts. So Big Ale, yeah, you're right. You are so right. It's honestly unbelievable. So on all kickoffs, whether or not you're kicking or receiving, the Vikings are second or tied for first in the league with the Tennessee Titans in total number of penalties as the kicking plus and or the receiving team. So that's 10 for the Vikings, 10 for Tennessee. The Vikings have had 6 fewer kickoff plays because their defense is not nearly as bad as Tennessee's. So people are just scoring less. 13.9%, so which also leads the league. 13.9% of all penalties, or 13.9% of all kickoffs on either side of the ball in Vikings games are committed, have a penalty committed by the Vikings. That's pretty bad, right? Like that's, what is that, 1 in 7 or something like that? 1 in 7 plays where the Vikings are involved in a kickoff, they commit a penalty. That's nuts. But I wanted to parse it out by whether or not they were kicking off or whether or not they were receiving, because the question was about receiving, right? So it turns out when they're kicking off, the Vikings are merely below average. They've committed 2 penalties on 35 kickoff plays, which is not nearly as bad as the Titans' absolutely nuts 5 kickoffs on 31 kickoff plays. So 16%, 1 in 6 of their plays, 1 in 6 of their kickoffs feature a penalty that they commit. Oh my God. So that would mean that if you're really good at really quickly doing mental math, that there's an even more absurd number coming down the pike, which is that the Vikings have committed 8 penalties as the receiving team on 37 kickoff return attempts. These include like touchbacks and stuff too. So, which means that they lead the league with a 21.6% rate of committing a penalty when they attempt to return a kickoff.
Remarkable.
A 1 in 5 every time. 1 in 5.
Those are not rookie numbers.
Those are numbers rookies might commit if the whole team was rookies. So yeah, it is far worse than any other team. The only team remotely close to them are the Kansas City Chiefs, who have 6 out of 30 at 20%. And then it's like a pretty big gap to like 16% with the New England Patriots. So, oh my God, that's crazy. And that's a huge problem. How do they fix it? Better coaching. I don't know, man. They don't do it. That's the fix.
Getter? This is a Getter moment from Ghostbusters.
Fix it.
By the way, I discovered something with Sumer Brain. You can't use an image to prove them wrong. I'm trying to make an Imgur post, and then I'm going to send it to Imgur so it can look at it to see what the rules are. It's going to be great.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to break this thing further. Let's go to Malcolm Biggles, who asks, why does the NFL keep talking about Cablegate when they insist there is nothing to talk about?
So has the NFL come out and said a new thing about Cablegate? Because the last I recall, they admonished, was it Al Michaels?
Yes.
For saying that
who then kind of was snarky as hell,
which was hilarious. But yeah, Al Michaels was like, yeah, well, you know, it hit a cable. What can you say? And then like an hour later, he's like, hey, so the NFL is asking me to tell you that they did not hit a cable, or we don't know that it hit a cable, or something like that. Yeah, what was his snark about the sandwich?
I'm trying to remember, but the thing that happened was that there was a what's the word I'm looking for? There was a new article that was posted here today, I believe, about it. I believe it was Kevin Seifert who had put it out.
So I'm looking at this ESPN piece. So reignited a dormant controversy the league had thought it had moved past. So this is Kalen Kaler, Kevin Seifert. Oh, this is probably the same article. It was posted yesterday. A league spokesperson said Anderson immediately called Amazon Prime's rules analyst Terry McCauley and explained to him the league's official stance on the London field goal, that Reichardt's ball did not make contact with the camera cable in London. So their official stance is not that it's inconclusive. Their official stance is that he did not do that. After a full quarter of game time, another field goal attempt, and more than an hour of broadcast time, Michaels, with his trademark sarcasm, issued a correction. The league wants to take my lunch away. That was it. Wants to take my lunch away because I said before that Reichardt's only miss came when he hit a wire in London. The league says, no, it was an optical illusion. That's not what Reichard thinks.
So yeah, that's where we're at. Why does the league keep doing this? Spite.
Yeah. Also, Reichert was interviewed for this piece. He says that the league got back to them and said that it hit a cable and that they were going to change it, and then later followed up by saying that they couldn't do it. And he says, but they admitted to it hitting. Take that for what it's worth. All right, man.
I love how dumb this is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. All right, next question is from Eric the Red, who asks, Nuance is dead. I have killed it. Is Dallas Turner A, good, or B, bad? Those are your only options.
James, before I answer this question, do I only get to answer with one word, or do I get to explain after?
You get to expound, but you have to choose definitively good or bad.
Yeah, I'll choose good. I will say he had a bad game last week. And then also he's not living up to his pick expectation as like the 26th overall or 17th overall or wherever it was. I always forget, like as soon as the Vikings pick a guy, I'm like, I don't know where they picked him. I had to Google where McCarthy was picked the other day. It's like, was it 10th or 12th? No, it was 10th. But yeah, first round pick, 17th to 26th. 26 was Donovan Jackson, so this must have been like. But yeah, not living up to mid to late first round talent. So in that context, it's not worth the investment. But he's good to have on a team because he's playing at kind of like a starting quality level, as like an edge setter, as a disruptor, who's got the ability to push the pocket, that kind of thing. But you expect more, right, from somebody who's in his second year in the league as a first round pick. So he's good because you wouldn't cut him, especially at his contract. He's not as good as he needs to be given his investment.
I have broken Sumer Brain again.
So can it click on links? So you send it a link, can it click on links?
It can click on links apparently.
Okay.
But I have it is really trying. Deez asks, when Kwesi took over, one of his first tasks was to make this roster younger and get rid of bad Spielman deals. Years later, our roster is older and we have 0 playoff wins to show for it. If we can't develop young talent and rely on old free agents to compensate, what are we really doing?
I would say that his job was not necessarily to do that. Probably the best way to execute his job is to do that. But I wouldn't say that is an accurate assessment of what his job is. His job is to put together competitive rosters year in, year out. Probably the best way to do that is to get rid of bad contracts and make the roster younger. But that's not the only way to do that. And so given that the roster is older, and of course there's no playoff wins for it, it's fair to say like, hey, job didn't, get accomplished at all. But I would argue that like the roster is good enough to win playoff games. It's really just about kind of how, like, first of all, the variance and specifics of just how playoff games are won. I think there's coaching at play here. And then, you can't pick when your quarterback is going to have like a seeing ghosts game, right? Like you wish it was all in like that little 3-week span where they played the Rams and the Jaguars or whatever. But it turns out it also happened at the end of the season too. But it's good enough to win playoff games. And I think that that's kind of the job. I will say if you're concerned about Kwesi is, well, okay, they've fielded competitive rosters for the past 3 years, right? This year, it seems like the roster is not good enough. Okay, fair enough. But my primary concern, hypothetically, if you didn't like Kwesi, is that the roster is not going to be good going forward because they've been so bad at drafting that they have to replace departing players with free agents, and you just don't have the cap space to do that. And that is pretty fair. He needs to be better at drafting. So I would not argue that he is a good GM. He is just a GM that has good results by the way that we should probably evaluate results so far. But he has not done it in a way that is sustainable. But his strengths have overcome his weaknesses thus far. His ability to find value in free agency and stuff like that. I don't think that is going to continue necessarily. So yeah, what are we doing? We're putting together rosters that we think are in the window to win right now. That's what the Vikings are always doing. They don't really do rebuilds.
Nope. We're constantly, the window is always open. Sure. Let's go to Osman, who asks, are there examples of players suffering a compound leg fracture and then being good afterwards?
Kind of. So there's just not that many examples of compound leg fractures to go off of. So Cam Scadaboo seemingly had this. So also, let me back up. I had a misconception about what a compound leg fracture was. I'm actually surprised that this has either neither come up on the podcast, or if it has come up and I don't remember, a doctor hasn't, because we know doctors listen to this for some reason. I presume that you all are busy and are qualified and intelligent, but yeah, here you are listening to a Norse code. But yeah, so I was under the impression that a compound leg fracture was a fracture of one bone with multiple breaks in it, and that's not what it is. It's also called an open fracture, and that is when the bone pierces the skin. And this was so outside of my understanding that I looked at multiple sources. I was like, that can't be, that's not what I thought it was. So I looked at multiple sources, and yeah, no, that's what it is. And so I looked up all of the compound fractures that I could possibly find over the past 20 years. So that's what Cam Scadaboo has. That sucks. The most famous compound leg fractures anyway, are Washington quarterbacks Alex Smith and Joe Theismann, both of whom famously not only didn't play well after they recovered. They didn't play at all. They did not recover. The Vikings also experienced it with Lewis Cine. Aiden Hutchinson was initially reported to have a compound leg fracture, but it was later clarified that it wasn't. Maybe the most famous example in earlier league history of a player suffering a compound fracture in the lower body and coming back to play is probably Tim Crumry, former Bengals nose tackle. He suffered one during the Super Bowl in 1989, coming off the 1988 season, and came back and continued to play at a high level. In 1992, this nose tackle had 97 tackles, which normally, I don't like judging defensive players by tackles, but A, I don't have a lot of ability to judge players in 1992. But B, a nose tackle getting 90 plus tackles it's hard for me to envision that that's a bad season, right? Like a linebacker, I can very easily envision 90 tackles being bad, right? You give up a ton in coverage, the tackles are downfield or whatever. Nose tackle, those are probably all near the line of scrimmage. Anyway, more recently, Dak Prescott is good. Right now, he's good. The Cowboys aren't, but he is. And he's been good. He had a compound ankle fracture in 2020. Tyler Lockett's compound fracture was in 2016, the second year of his career. That was before he was good. And then he turned into one of those Robert Woods is classic, all underrated. If you tried to, this guy's the most underrated receiver in the league. That he was one of those guys, right? He didn't get Pro Bowl recognition, but he was as good as a lot of the guys that did actually make the Pro Bowl for a solid 6 years. Nick Gates, a former guard center for the New York Giants, suffered a compound fracture. He had a 410-day recovery process, 7 surgeries in that span, which is a lot. That is so many. Also, Alex Smith had 17 and almost lost his life due to complications and an infection. So these can get pretty bad. 410 days later, Nick Gates returns to play as a guard/center and was actually pretty good in 2023. So good for him. Mark Mariani was a pretty good returner 2 years after his injury in the 2012 preseason with the Titans, I think. So those are examples of compound leg fractures. I couldn't find many that specified that this was a compound leg fracture. You could find a ton of examples of NFL players who suffered fractures of some sort. But yeah, the compound leg fracture obviously introduces a lot of complications because, and I probably should have put a little bit of a content warning at the beginning of this question. Sorry, but here it is now. It's going to get a little bit more, and if you don't skip ahead 45 seconds. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this. But it introduces more complications because something on the inside of you is now on the outside of you. And there's a reason you have an outside. It's to protect the inside of you from the outside. Your skin is an organ and it protects your body from stuff getting in. And now it can't do that. And so that's one of the complications, the most obvious complication. But another complication is that if the break is so severe that that's happening, sometimes the only thing attaching, again, content warning, the only thing attaching one part of your body to another is your skin. That's crazy. That's what happened to Crumry. His foot was not attached to the rest of his leg except via the skin. Oh my God. That, would mean, right, that, you've got greater ligament tears, you've got greater damage throughout like it's going through your muscle. That's a ton more muscle damage than you're saying. So there's like a lot more in terms of complications as far as I can tell. Again, very clearly, I'm not a medical professional. I didn't even know what this was 2 hours ago. I had a completely different understanding. So, I'm sure someone's going to correct me in an email, and I super welcome it. But yeah, there are a couple examples, but given how awful this is and how complicated the recovery process can be, remember, Smith had 17 surgeries, and I guess he did technically come back, right? I don't remember if he played, but like you saw his leg. That if you haven't, don't. That's not good. And like Nick Gates had 7 surgeries, and I know Dak Prescott had like a setback or 2. It's bad. It's much worse than a lot of the fractures that we tend to see. And fractures themselves are bad. Bones aren't supposed to do that. We've evolved them. Controversial take. We've evolved them so that doesn't happen, actually. So yeah, that's my answer. I don't know why this was asked, if it was about Cam Scadaboo or someone else, but like, that's the answer I have. Sometimes, yeah, it's happened.
Let's go to Jogger. Oh, this is going to be a tongue twister, and I haven't practiced. This will be good. Let's go to Jogger, who asks, Arif seems ready to pitch the precocious passer into the ponder pile and prepare for the next prospect. I prefer to be positive about potential. What performance could McCarthy put up prior to the playoffs for Arif's prognosis for the Purple's primary pick to allow for future Pro Bowl possibility? Damn, I was so close.
You were so close. I kind of still want to give it to you because your stumbling wasn't related to the consonants, like, I'm going to give this a try too. Arif seems ready to pitch the precocious passer into the ponder pile and prepare for the next prospect. I prefer to be positive about potential. What performance could McCarthy put up prior to the playoffs for Arif's prognosis for the Purple's primary pick to allow for future Pro Bowl possibility? I did that at a quieter volume than I should have, but I think that counts.
We'll allow it.
That's not me. That's not fair. I just said that he's been bad, and then I wrote a piece saying that over the next 5 games he'll probably continue to not play well. That's not to say that 2, 3, 4 years down the line, he's going to be bad, right? I outlined a couple of players in my piece on this one. So I wrote a piece about, hey, what can we really tell given that there are only 2 games of data, but they are like catastrophically bad from the perspective of this particular data? What can we tell from that? And obviously the answer is not much, but I wanted to see, because of how bad it was, whether it provided any signal at all. And it does provide some signal. It's obviously not a ton. And the slot that you're drafted at tells you a lot more. So that's the primary thing. But it turns out if you're not drafted 1, 2, or 3, it's actually really difficult to be the kind of player, right? Because being drafted at 1, 2, or 3 doesn't give you talent. It's revealing how much talent the NFL thinks you have, right? But it's pretty difficult for those guys to overcome that slow start and become a very good player, right? Obviously, we've got a couple of examples of players doing that over time. Jared Goff is a really good example. Josh Allen is the example everyone goes to. You go all the way back to history, Peyton Manning. You go even further back into history, Troy Aikman, Terry Bradshaw. But even like recently, like Eli Manning, Matthew Stafford, just in terms of not even just rookie years, just like first few games, right? That's not good. And what I could tell from that is that probably for the rest of the season, there's not a lot of evidence to suggest we will see a big leap in performance, right? Bryce Young, when he got benched, came back and played well at the end of the season. So it is possible to play better, obviously, after you get benched in return. But Tua didn't after he got benched, which I don't think was his rookie year. It might have been. But like when Tua was benched by Brian Flores, like it didn't turn out well when he came back. So that's kind of really all I'm saying, is that he played at a really, really poor level. And so we kind of have an understanding of what his floor is. And his floor is lower than, somehow, the floor for Carson Wentz. it's not a relevant conversation anymore because Carson is so egregiously hurt that like he shouldn't have been playing the last game at all, whether or not McCarthy was healthy. There's been some PR about this. The Vikings have come out and said there's no chance for further injury. And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, he is an adult. My take is my take. It's on the last podcast if you want to see my pushback to those arguments. But it is kind of irrelevant, but I am just trying to explain my point that the floor is lower. That doesn't mean the ceiling's not higher. The ceiling is absolutely higher. We know his ceiling is higher. And if you're at the back end, right, if you're a bad team and you need more help, you want a more volatile player. You want, even if the player has a lower floor, you want the player with the higher ceiling. So it does make sense once you've kind of revealed where you're at to play JJ McCarthy. But I just think our prior understanding of who he's going to be for the next couple of games should be conditioned on the fact that he wasn't very good for the first 2 games. So that's kind of all my argument is. I don't think that the youngest quarterback that's been drafted in quite some time will have revealed his true talent level coming off of an injury in his first 2 games. And you can talk about like all the other excuses. I've talked about, you know, how relevant I think it is that left tackle was missing, that Jordan Addison was missing, that they were calling essentially the wrong offense, which is important. But that's really all the argument is. It's not that he's not going to become a Pro Bowler or anything like that. And like, you know, we like so someone commented or responded. I don't remember if it was like commenting on a YouTube video for a podcast I was on or something else, but they were like, hey, we don't even know if Bo Nix or Caleb Williams are good yet. And they have had way more time. And like, yeah, you're right. That's not my argument. My argument is not that we know how good JJ McCarthy is going to be. My argument is just that the best evidence we have tells us that in the short term, it's probably not going to go well. I'd love to be wrong. That'd be really cool. I like writing those articles, but yeah.
Next question is from I Hate Carmel, Indiana, who asks, soft benching this, soft benching that. What if this was a soft paternity leave for McCarthy?
I am so in favor of generous paternity leave policies by corporations and especially by governments requiring that of corporations. And I think it would be really cool if some of the paternity and maternity leave standards match those of some other countries around the world. People always point to like Norway, Sweden. I don't know which one of those 2 countries seems to have a really good one. Maybe it's both, but that'd be cool. I don't think, despite that Scandinavian heritage, that the Vikings are really following that, that policy. I think not that I would suggest that McCarthy had a baby without really planning to. I wouldn't suggest that. But I think that probably if he had thought about it with a little bit more understanding of the variance for when a child could be born, that maybe he would have planned for that to happen a little bit earlier. So, you know, I think, and then if you had a paternity leave policy for NFL teams that was 6 weeks, then probably you're limiting players from having kids for a good chunk of the season. So it's probably not a soft paternity leave, as much as it would be kind of fun if the NFL just instituted like a hard paternity leave. Can you imagine if they passed a law in the United States requiring paternity leave and the NFL couldn't find a way to get an exemption? That would be so funny. I would genuinely think that like I would enjoy that. Like, good luck.
I'm just envisioning all of the talking heads on the morning shows freaking out because he's not putting his team before. He's not thinking about his team. He was thinking with somebody else. He's going to be out of there. He's going to be missing at least 6 weeks out of this because he went and had a kid.
Yeah, just like and like in your fantasy league, you have like the Q, the D, the P for probable, right? The O for out. And then you have to do like a PA for paternity, right? Like out 6 weeks.
Or like just the image of like the 2 lines from a positive pregnancy
test. My God, yes. Holy crap. So you should have 2 IR slots and then 1 slot for paternity leave, I think, on your fantasy team.
That's why not? A second jet has hit Drew Bledsoe, asks, for the Drew Bledsoe Lions Week corner, what great college stories will McCarthy and Hutchison relive as McCarthy is having his body violently crashing into the ground at Mach 8 by the Lions defensive line? Could McCarthy distract Hutchinson by showing him his national championship?
Mid body slam.
Yes.
Probably reminisce over Connor Stallions, right? Like, I think that was probably the first thing you do. You see an old teammate that you won a ton of games with, and you're like, remember that time that we cheated? That's probably the first thing you bring up.
Let's go to the next question. Love that. From Benjamin Ghazi, who asks, and that was the name of the Discord, for Arif's take evaluation corner, which of these hot takes is more likely to be true? Number 1, Ryan Grigson is the primary culprit for our poor draft results over Kwesi's tenure. Or 2, Grant Udinsky leaving is the primary culprit for the offensive struggles.
So I have been kind of forwarding this take. I've been soft launching it on a bunch of podcasts that my normal listener base doesn't listen to. But I think I like it. I think I'm going to put it out now. Sorry, I was just thinking about, like, was it Ocean's 13? It's not an open. It's a soft open. But I think my take is that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah doesn't trust analytics. I think,
what a bold take considering what he was hired for.
Right. But like, I've been talking to some people who have some familiarity with using data in order to draft. So that I've received some pushback from them, so that's fair. But my argument is his picks are just not analytically sound. And anytime a pick occurs where it feels like there may be some explanation, he does kind of kick it over to, the scouting department or whatever. And they talk about like how they found this player. And it's always about pure scouting and never, hey, we noticed that, he had some really good numbers in areas that we think kind of project well. And, if you're a GM, you don't want to like give away what those numbers are. So you might not want to be like, we noticed that on true pass sets that, his pressure rate is really high, or we noticed that on 3-step drops, his win rate was really high. You don't want to give that away because now you're giving other teams your secret sauce. But you could just say, hey, this is somebody that when we were going through our data had some numbers in some key areas that we care a lot about. And so we had our scouts look over his film to try and see if there was something there. It's never that. It's always Ryan Grigson said he's a dancing bear. So we drafted Ed Ingram 2 rounds too early, right? It's like, what in the world? Or why? What is the thing? And the pushback I got, and a lot of these players you don't really fit. Like Andrew Booth does, right? Because it's like, well, you get an injury prone guy, you get him at a discount, get players at a discount because the NFL discounts them too often or whatever, too much. Okay. But like for the most part, it's not those guys. It's not guys where the numbers kind of tell you that there's something there, right? A Caleb Evans is not that guy. Ty Felton is not that guy. That's not really the strategy that we've been getting. Drafting a guard in the first round or drafting a guard ahead of kind of where, his numbers at guard might suggest he be, that's not where that is. Right. And so I asked some people who were familiar with kind of using numbers in this process in an NFL context specifically. And they were like, well, it could just be that the numbers he's using are bad. And I was like, that's not better. What do you mean by that? And they're like, well, Ed Ingram, kind of fits a certain really old understanding of using data to draft a guy. And I was like, what do you mean by that? Look at his number of starts. And I was like, oh my God, no way. You're right. He had the highest number of starts of any guard in that year's draft. And I was like, okay, because this actually was very similar to the way Cleveland used to draft, right? Corey Coleman was, led the league in like touchdowns. Spencer Drango, was not just an All-American, which is kind of where a lot of those offensive linemen came from. He like led the league in starts. They got a bunch of guys that won postseason awards like the Blitnikoff, which, hey, Jordan Addison, or guys that like led in almost superficial categories like receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, or rushing yards. Cleveland doesn't seem to do that anymore, but they did that when they first like brought in, I think it was Podesta, and became like the analytics team, right? And they were drafting people that you were like, I don't know that's a really good pick from an analytics perspective. He just had a lot of yards, right? And it seems like that might be what Kwesi's doing, but I think it's actually more that anytime he's drafting, he's like kind of too afraid to apply data in like a meaningful and rigorous way. Because I don't think you can justify most of these picks using what, at least from a public facing perspective, right? And the stuff that's happening on NFL teams, it can be quite different. But from a public facing perspective, using the data that kind of best suggests which players you should draft earlier or later. Like he just kind of never does that. And so I think when it comes to drafting, he's this is the analogy I used actually. For a long time, and Chase Stewart over at Football Perspective actually got in trouble for pointing this out. And I think it's just because he didn't like word the tweet correctly. So a bunch of people called him racist, but he's actually making a point that was, I think, anti-racist. It was kind of pointing out a systemic problem of racism in the United States and specifically in the NFL. Black quarterbacks for a while just had lower interception rates. And he was really curious about why that might be. And his argument was that because black quarterbacks get benched earlier than white quarterbacks, which is still true, by the way, they were more likely to, whether consciously or unconsciously, understand that the pressure was there to avoid making mistakes and to make suboptimal decisions that were risk averse, specifically to avoid throws that could be interceptions. And in the same way, players who would be well positioned to scramble were pressured into being quote unquote pocket passers and not run the ball when they had that opportunity, when it was advantageous for them to just tuck it and run, because they didn't want to be seen as a running quarterback, which has racial connotations. And so they would throw the ball more than they probably should have. And I think Kwesi doesn't want to be seen as an analytics GM. And I think he's overcorrecting. I think that he's very familiar with a lot of the concepts that undergird analytical thinking. He's probably pretty familiar with a lot of the data-based approaches to how you would use numbers to kind of improve your draft odds. And I think he doesn't want to be the analytics GM. And so he asks Ryan Grigson to find the best offensive lineman in the draft. I think that's what's happening.
Let's go to our next question. By the way, I broke Summer Brain.
Yes, let's go.
It's we'll talk closer to the end.
At the end of the show, we'll give you an update on what we've been doing with Summer Brain.
Bring Ed Ingram back asks,
okay,
for Reeves All Hallows Corner, what force keeps causing the Vikings odd year slumps? It obviously hasn't responded to multiple sacrifices, be it executive, coach, or player. How do we identify and ultimately banish it so we can enjoy multiple normal football years in succession?
When did the every other year curse start? Was it 2013, 2012, or was it just the Zimmer era, 2014?
I think it started with the Zimmer era.
Okay. Because if you wanted to extend it to Leslie Frazier, I think you could make the argument, right? Because he was the interim after Brad Childress, and then he had a good year, then a bad year, right? And then that's what led to Zimmer. 2012 was really good. 2013 was really bad. You hire Mike Zimmer. But it goes way back. And I think it is a curse that the Vikings incurred because they decided to go back to Mississippi prior to the 2010 season and bring Brett Favre back. Now, I don't want to say anything about like Magics of the Bayou. I think that you can get into some hot water trying to talk about that. But I do think that there is some kind of bad juju when it comes to Brett Favre and Mississippi. And you avoided the curse once. You go back, you invoke it now. And suddenly he's sending pictures and embezzling funds and probably other things.
Really, just not caring about anyone's welfare. If you'd like to learn more, search Brett Favre, Mississippi, and welfare to get a bit more information on it.
Yeah.
Tankby asks, for a Reef's real science corner, as we never go here.
That's crazy.
What would happen to Hutchinson's body if he were to reach Mach 8 outside of rigorously designed vehicles designed to withstand those speeds? I have a feeling it's referencing the second jet Bledsoe comment.
So I was kind of like searching around. I was like, well, what is the maximum speed that a human can withstand? Assuming like kind of normal air density and temperature. What happens if you go X miles per hour? I was going through a couple of Reddit threads, and I basically got the answer. But this is a football question, right? Because it's related to Aiden Hutchinson, and it's related to Aiden Hutchinson sending JJ McCarthy flying. And I was like, well, who better to ask a football question than Sumer Brain? So I asked Sumer Brain. I can't believe this. What happens to the human body when traveling 6,000 miles per hour in the open air? Assume normal density and average temperature. Okay. It answered.
Now the problem is there's evidence of it being wrong a lot lately.
Yeah, and I'm not clicking these links to double check. I'm just going to give you what it says, and you got to understand that if you need to make a decision about whether or not you or your loved one has to travel at 6,000 miles per hour in the open air without any protection or outside of a vehicle specifically designed to withstand those speeds, do not use this podcast for advice on that, because we are using a highly, highly unreliable piece of information. But it said traveling at 6,000 miles per hour, approximately 9,656 kilometers per hour in open air would have catastrophic effects on the human body due to extreme air resistance, heat generation, and aerodynamic forces. At such high speeds, the friction between the body and air molecules would generate immense heat, potentially causing severe burns or even vaporization of bodily tissues. This phenomenon is similar to the intense heating experienced by spacecraft re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. So I did look that up because a Reddit thread brought it up, which of course is a more accurate source of information. Shuttle reentry speeds at, before they have, successfully braked to kind of normal air travel speeds, start at like Mach 25 and end around Mach 10. And we're asking about Mach 8, right? That I think is a reasonable analogy to bring up. Mach 8 is like 5,960 whatever miles per hour. So I chose 6,000 because it was probably easier. It was a little bit easier to Google. The aerodynamic pressure at 6,000 miles per hour would exert overwhelming forces on the body, leading to immediate disintegration. Even at lower speeds, such as 500 miles per hour, unprotected exposure can cause significant injury. For instance, Colonel John Paul Stapp. Again, these anecdotes, I'm not verifying. I've seen LLMs just make up stories, so keep that in mind. For instance, Colonel John Paul Stapp of the U.S. Air Force conducted experiments in the 1950s where he exposed himself to wind blasts at approximately 500 miles per hour, resulting in bruising and blisters from airborne particles. That's a real dude's rock moment, in my opinion. I'm just doing that for some reason. But yeah, an SR-71 pilot survived the disintegration of his aircraft when it was traveling at Mach 3.18. But there was reduced air density at that altitude because it's SR-71 Blackbird, right? So we don't really, that's not super analogous, but yeah, I think disintegration is a reasonable conclusion to draw from this one.
Yeah. You're turning into pudding. That's all there is to it. Mm-hmm. And speaking of people turning into pudding, it's time to go off the rails. QB1.
Yeah. Cause the last one was a football question. That's why I asked Sumer Brain.
Technically, yeah. QB1 Cam Akers asks, for a Reef's giving random children candy corner.
Okay, I don't like that you named it that.
What kind of candy should I hand out to children on Halloween that's good enough to one-up my neighbors without having to be so good that I become the, quote, king-sized candy bar house?
Because I don't see what the problem with being the king-sized candy bar house is, but if you want to avoid that but still one-up the neighbors, I just think kind of like the 2-cup, the Reese's Cups, like packet, because I think the king size is 4 Reese's Cups, right? So if you just do the 2, I think those are my favorite every year. At least it was when I was a kid. My favorite every year were like getting the large Reese's Cups without it being a king size candy bar. So I would go with that. And if it's not that, then just the individually wrapped Reese's Cups.
Next question. James Don Sharif asks, for Arif's thruple corner, say a high-ranked thruple got upset by a lower seed in the thruple playoffs.
Wait, no, hold on. The thruples are playing each other now?
Yup. Sure are. Would it be wise to replace the weakest member of said throuple to shake things up, or is their experience in one more year together better than a theoretical shakeup just for shakeup's sake?
Well, you got to be careful if you're not overextending your thruple Super Bowl window. You can't, but at the same time, it's really tough to engage in a thruple rebuild. What did Pete Carroll, I think, called it a reload. The Vikings have called it a competitive rebuild. And so it would only be kind of one member of the thruple for you to kind of hopefully remain competitive. By the way, I'm not doing my normal disclaimer on this one because I don't really care about competing across relationships. It's just kind of the within relationships thing that I have a problem with. But now that the thruples are playing each other somehow, which I don't actually. So, like, there's just new rules to the way the thruple competition works. It's like polyamory Calvin ball, which I think is just polyamory, but like, I don't know what the rules are. And then you ask me, and then every question has like an embedded set of implied rules that I have to like work my answer around. And like I don't remember what happens on other podcast episodes I'm on. And so I don't know what the previous rules. So I'm like building this complicated lore off of half remembered. Like I have to go to what it used to be back when Harry Potter wasn't awful and evil, you would look up like the Harry Potter lexicon to look up like an obscure piece of lore that you forgot because it's on like page, 219 of like the fourth book. And so like you couldn't be bothered to look it up, but you knew the name of it. So you just look it up in the Harry Potter lexicon, and then J.K. Rowling sued them. I don't have the thruple lexicon to look up or sue, both of which I feel like I want to do.
That's absolutely should be an episode title at some point.
So
thruple lexicon.
So I can't give you consistent answers, but I would say breaking up just so you can win the competition. I'm not going to say it's invalid, but I'm going to say that's heavy. What's
the draft process like for that? Like, I feel like
I think it's all free agency, right? Like it's all free. Like unless. Like, do we consider Tinder or like the unicorn apps? I think there are apps for if like you're looking for a third and you don't want to be creepy about it. Like, or do we consider that the waiver wire, or do we consider that like free agency?
Well, I mean, depends if it's happening within the season that we don't know when the dates are.
right. Like I can't log into the app. It's Monday and waivers haven't released yet.
It's not going to be able to join. Not going to be able to join until Tuesday night.
Yeah, because that person won't. That person has been released from the thruple, but it won't be official until Tuesday night.
When you get the email at like 3 a.m.
Your waiver claims are processed.
Then you find out the waiver claim was rejected by another thruple.
Right. Taken over. Higher up in the waiver order. What business is that?
Absolutely ridiculousness.
I can't believe the waiver order is designed by a record and not by total points. That's crazy. Someone should look into that.
I'm trying to pull it together. My 5-year-old plans to replace me, asks, question for Arif's relationship corner. I am trying to take back some power in my relationship since you said it's unhealthy for my wife and I to have a similar dynamic as Kevin O'Connell and Wentz. Do you recommend a work stoppage? No dishes, laundry, or caring for kids?
What?
Would malicious compliance or weaponized incompetence be more effective? How do I, quote, seize the means of production in a relationship when I am sterilized? You're getting some all-timers right now. I hope you're appreciating living in the moment, because these are good.
I didn't read that question in the pre-show. That one just completely caught me. Geez. Okay. It's okay. Hold on. I want to clarify some things. So again, relationships should not have an employer-employee dynamic, which is probably why we have laws about and corporate policies about, dating up or down the corporate structure, right? Like that's we gotta think about that for a second. I would not compare a relationship to a corporation or a workplace kind of at all. That is not to say that labor doesn't occur within the confines of all of the shared tasks that exist within a relationship, but rather that labor is not what we would consider socially productive in like the Marxist sense. Like obviously it's socially productive because like you are both social beings and the labor kind of helps, but like in the sense that it produces something that we would maybe call a commodity. I am butchering Marx. I'm confident I am. And so it doesn't exist on the kind of this like larger market, right? And because of that, like a work stoppage doesn't really make sense. It just makes you kind of a brat in the relationship. So again, this is kind of like a communication thing. You said taking back some power in the relationship, which would suggest to me that your wife is Kevin O'Connell and you are Carson Wentz, which is not an analogy I encourage you to kind of keep running with. I don't think you want other people to think that that's it. But if that's the case, and she has the power to make you play through injury or bench you for no reason or cut you without you having any ability to kind of get compensation for that, that's bad. That's not a relationship that I would say is one you should be in. Also, I noticed, wasn't it previously my 4-year-old plans to replace me? Was that the previous name?
I believe so, yes.
So happy birthday to that kid that plans to replace you. So now I'm learning there's a kid in the relationship, which makes the divorce conversation a little bit tougher. But I'm just like thinking about that.
But Arif is still telling you should endeavor to persevere here.
Well, you don't want to put a kid through a bad marriage, right? So like ultimately divorces are bad for kids, but not as bad as living in a house that should have been divorced, right? Like I think... Right? Like I feel like you're with me on that one, James.
Look, you once argued with me that it is possible for a good marriage to end in divorce.
It is possible.
I am not helping you here.
I know you agree with me on this one. I know you agree with me on the second take, the take I just put together here.
We're going to go to the anime corner now. So I've tried getting into Gundam Wing due to nostalgia from childhood. Unfortunately, it's terrible.
No way. I mean, not that I have an opinion on Gundam Wing, but like, no way.
Unfortunately, it's terrible. Though I still enjoy the Endless Waltz movie. Is this a subs are better than dubs situation, or is the series legit bad? What Gundam series would you recommend instead?
So I've never watched it, and if I did watch it, I haven't watched it again very recently, so I wouldn't be able to tell you very much about how it holds up, but I am very surprised that is the take. But maybe slower space operas are not for you, in which case there's probably not a lot of Gundam that you're going to be super into, because it is all slower space operas that just happen to have giant mecha suits fighting each other. Anyway, the answer is Iron-Blooded Orphans, according to the internet, and not just me.
Finally, let's go to Anya Taylor-Joy, who asks, for Arif's pettiness corner. I recently had a birthday, and not a single one of my sister-in-law, or their significant others, or my mother-in-law managed to wish me a happy birthday. In fact, they still haven't.
Hold on. So I know there's going to be more clarification in a second, but like, is that, can other people tell me if that's a normal expectation to have? That feels like an abnormal expectation that like you would notice that enough to be mad.
If memory serves, my last birthday in June, I got a message from a future mother-in-law and one or two of the brothers out of the three, but the third I don't even think has my number.
Right.
So,
which, like, it wouldn't shock me if like for the next 3 years he doesn't have your number, right? Like, I don't know.
I think, well, my marriage was a bad example because let's just keep going here.
Yeah.
For the pettiness corner, I recently had a birthday and not a single one of my sister-in-law, their significant others, or my mother-in-law managed to wish me a happy birthday. In fact, they still haven't. For context, I have known them all over 16 years and have been a staple part of their lives for longer than their piece of crap dad / ex-husband.
Okay.
Who actually did wish me a happy birthday. What is the most petty way to get back at them?
Interesting second sentence to that question. Petty way to get back at them is, I think the Minnesotan way to get back at them, or something that resembles passive aggressiveness, is to send them like birthday cards that will arrive on days that are just absolutely not their birthdays, right? Like, just like it's 3 months late, and you just keep doing it. I assume you know all their birthdays. Otherwise, I don't know what your expectation is here. But yeah, right? Like, send little birthday cards with like gifts too, that not like expensive, because, you know, it's not like this is like a gift giving thing, but like little gifts that make it really clear that you thought about them and then just absolutely got the birthday wrong. And don't be consistent about it. 3 months off for one person, 4 months for another, 5.5 for another. Just full send. Just make sure it's not near the birthday enough so that someone can blame like the postal service or something.
So my first thought involves going back to an old classic from the show, in that going back to like when you go to their next event that they host, whether it's like a Thanksgiving or something, and bringing a turkey. Or is there a food?
Wow. Yeah.
Is there a food that they make for every event? Go in and make a better version of that.
That's good. Yeah, we've pulled that thread before. That one's a really good one. Yeah. That helps establish dominance in front of the pride. But you have to come super correct on that. Like, it has to be unambiguous that you're go to Serious Eats and look up their recipes, or like read the Food Lab book for like those. Just like go crazy and it's like unambiguous that your mashed potatoes are better. Like, it overcomes the power of nostalgia. Good. Like, that's what you have to do.
Yep, because you're fighting an uphill battle, because people are going to be upset that you did it, and then they have to eat it and go, "Oh my god,
yeah,
this is the best Snicker salad I've ever had in my life."
Yeah, but probably no matter what it is, you should probably put MSG in it. Like that'll even the Snicker salad.
Even the Snicker salad. Like, the Snicker salad. Why is there an umami flavor in this?
It's weird, but it's kind of addictive. I'm gonna go back.
I need more. It's not salty, but I need more water. I don't get it. So I want to tell you, as now that we're finishing up the episode, I want to tell you what I did to Sumer Brain. So I successfully led the horse to water and made it drink. Oh. I gave them the image of the rules for kickers.
Which, again, you can't upload an image. You uploaded the image to Imgur and then gave them the Imgur link. Which, by the way, I found out in the UK you can't access Imgur. It's like IP banned across all of the United Kingdom. Anyway, keep going.
So I provided it with that, and then I said, let's go and figure out, available kickers or roster stuff, whatever. And it proceeded to do it incorrectly again. So it gave me
so you gave it the league rules and it still.
Yep. So it then said like week 9 projection, 7.7 points, week 9 projection, 7.1 points. Meanwhile, correctly explaining what was on the image. And so I then said, why would you expect this many points per game when you clearly said that they can score so many more than that? They're like, you're absolutely right. Given you're absolutely right to be surprised by the relatively modest 5.78 points per game for Cam Little, given your league's explosive kicker system.
Hey.
And so it started to learn. And then I went, so using the Hell League scoring system you have analyzed from the image, let's try that again on expectations and who's available on the bench. And it did it right. It took 7 tries, but I finally got the horse to drink. And it gave me accurate information on this based on what I had given it. Now, that said,
the future is so cool, dude.
This is so stupid. I do enjoy that it took so long for it to figure out like the sky was blue. Like the fact that it couldn't go in and do it itself to find out, oh hey, this is the actual like rules. How is that not the most important thing for? Or does it just assume that it only runs through
and I think
consensus sources or something?
This like kind of undercuts. So like people have done like Turing tests on like ChatGPT and stuff like that, and I think it like kind of undercuts the claims that it like generally passes the Turing test, which is just a test like if you have like members of the public or just random people have conversations on a computer. And they can't tell if they're talking to the thing that we're calling an AI or a human, and you have to do the test with both humans and the AI. Then they have to like select which one is human, which one's the computer, and the computer tends to win at a 50% rate. Then it passes the Turing test. And like I don't really understand because like this is based off of, as far as we can tell, GPT-4 or GPT-4o Turbo. And that's one of the ones that I think was supposed to have passed. I don't know. But I don't understand because like I can't imagine ever interacting with a human this infuriating who doesn't get what you're saying. And like, it doesn't like pick up on implications very well. Like I was very clearly suggesting a bunch of things strongly with the way I was wording things without telling it directly. And it couldn't handle that. Like you needed to tell it directly and then it might like disagree with you. And it's like, well, it's my league. Wait, what are you talking about? So, yeah, the football AI can now connect to your fantasy leagues and give you generic advice.
All right, so the first thing we need to do, because it's giving such awful advice, is to tell Luke Braun about this.
Yeah,
because
he is running his league by AI.
He is using AI to run his league, or his team in the league. So
what's his
I
record?
feel like it's not great. Let's find out together, shall we? Let's see. Original Hell League. There we are. Let's go to the overview of the league. And he is... you're first still.
Yeah, I'm 7-1. Let's go.
He is currently in 10th place. He is 2-6.
Good. Good both because I don't want the AI to be doing well, but also because I don't want Luke Braun to be doing well.
He is doing better than I am because I am in 11th. I have had a bad year this year.
Oh yeah, the Fighting Wine Towels. Oh no.
Yeah, the Fighting Wine Towels are having some issues. I really should just commit Sumer Brain to Hell League 1. All right, let's finish the episode. That is going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Hope you have enjoyed it, despite the discussion on breaking AI. This is so much fun. I may continue to break this after we're done with the call. Arif, what do you have to plug?
So for at Why Left Football, we've got a couple of pieces out. One is on Jalen Redmond. It's a bunch of fun. It's written by Matt Fries about the impact that he's having while he's playing at an above starting level, which is pretty great. You know, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are going forward that he needs to fix. We've got a really great piece on the dynamic kickoff from Kevin Fielder. Really, really fun piece. I helped contribute to the research for that. And then I also already mentioned the piece about JJ McCarthy in the first 2 games. So check that over at Wide Left Football. And I'm sure I was on like 5 different Lions podcasts yesterday. So you're probably going to see me retweet a bunch of those too.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for this episode. We'll be back next week to talk about hopefully the victory over the Lions. So for Arif, my name is James. Thank you guys so much for listening. And please remember that the horrors persist, and so does Sumer Brain. And we'll be back next week. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog, at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif of... and he can be found on Twitter at ArifNFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at norsecodepodcast or at my personal account at BigMono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/norsecode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/norsecode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
All things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.